Network, host of the African History Network show. I'm a talk show host, researcher, lecturer, writer, and historian. So it is Tuesday, November 15th, 2022. And we are live. This is a special edition of the African History Network show. I did the show Sunday, but we had some technical difficulties. So I'm broadcasting the show over in its entirety today. All right. So hope everybody's doing well today. Share this broadcast on your social media platforms. You know, normally we're on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF in Detroit. So I was on 9:10 on Sunday. That original broadcast is on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. But it didn't pass. Okay, so we're going to start here in just a minute. How's everybody doing? Let's see. Let's go with this here. All right. So we're broadcasting on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. It is Tuesday, November 15th, 2022, and we are live. Welcome to the African History Network show. So we're going to talk about the film Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, the sequel to the February 2018 blockbuster movie Black Panther. It debuted this past Thursday, which was Thursday. Well, the official opening was Friday, November 11th, but there was some screenings on Thursday, November 10th. All right. So the movie has done $330 million worldwide, $330 million globally. And it has done, just a second here. Stand by. Okay, so the movie has done $330 million globally, and it has done $180 million domestically in the U.S. Okay, it's the #1 movie this weekend. I saw it this past Saturday. The ladies of my sisters of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated did a private screening of it, and they also had a white party. So we're going to talk some about the movie. It's a fantastic film. I encourage everybody to go see it. And it also, we'll also talk about the Mesoamerican Latino influence that we see represented in the film as well, with Tenoch Huerta, who plays Prince Namor. Okay, so there's a good article that deals with the shared experiences between indigenous cultures and cultures in Mexico, and Latinos, and African cultures, African American cultures. Okay, so we're going to talk some about that on today's show. Also, I will give you information about a presentation I'm doing this weekend, this Saturday, November 19th, dealing with the film Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Okay, this is taking place in Detroit, and I'm not the organizer of the event, but the sister Chiquita saw my presentation, saw my lecture that I did on Black Panther back in 2018, and she asked me to do to speak at her event. So this is a lunch and lecture that's taking place Saturday, November 19th. They're going to go see a screening of the film Black Panther at the MJR Universal 16 Theater, 2800 DeQuinder in Detroit. I'm getting her to update the flyer. The screening is at 11 a.m. And then the lunch and learn is taking place at Hannon House Center, 4750 Woodward Avenue in Detroit, which is right near Wayne State University. Okay. And my presentation started about 3 p.m. All right. For more information, 313-978-1089. Call Chiquita at 313-978-1089 for more information. Tickets are $32.50 in advance, and it includes the movie luncheon. If you just want to attend the luncheon, That's like $22.50. But give her a call to RSVP. Okay. So we'll talk about this, and then midterm election shocker. Midterm election shocker. All right. People were, a lot of the prognosticators were predicting a red wave for the midterm elections, and I said there was not going to be. I didn't think there was going to be a red wave. I told listeners on the African History Network show, and I told people on Roland Martin Unfiltered. I told them don't listen to these predicators on MSNBC and CNN predicting a red wave. I did not see that happening. Okay. And I said, people need to get out and vote. People need to get out and vote. To hell with the prognosticators. All right. Well, as it turns out, I was correct. And we see that Democrats are keeping control of the U.S. Senate. All right. And even though it looks like Republicans will take control of the House of Representatives by a very slim margin, it's going to be very hard for Republicans to govern in the House, because they may have 219 seats. It takes 218 votes to have a majority in the House of Representatives. So we're going to break down what happened. We see that Catherine Cortez Masto in Arizona, in Nevada, she keeps her Senate seat. Democrat, she wins her race. And then also on Monday night, we got the news that Katie Hobbs in the Arizona governor's race. Carrie Hobbs beats the Trump-backed crazy lady, Carrie Lake, conspiracy theorist Carrie Lake. Katie Hobbs wins the governor's race there, which is as well, not just for Democrats, but for democracy. Okay, just for sanity, just for sane people. So we'll discuss the midterm elections. Give you some updates there. I was in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday, November 8th, for the for Roland Martin's 7-hour. We ended up doing 8 hours of election day coverage. Okay, so I was there live in the studio for that. So we'll post. So I'm going to share some of that broadcast with you as well. He had over 50 guests scheduled. So I flew to Washington, D.C. Tuesday morning, had a 6 a.m. flight out of Detroit. And it's my first time at his studios. There's a fantastic studio there. You know, I'm a panelist on Roland Martin Unfiltered every Friday. His show airs Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'm on every Friday, but this is my first time being in the studios. So we see that Democrats maintain control of the Senate, and it's there's going to be a runoff election in Georgia. So we'll talk a little bit about the runoff election, Senator Raphael Warnock versus Herschel Walker in Georgia as well. That Senate runoff date is going to be December 6th. December 6th. So they only have like about little more than 3 weeks to get ready for that. So the campaign is taking place with that as well. And when we did the election day broadcast for Roland Martin Unfiltered, I said on that broadcast that Democrats were going to end up with 51 Senate seats. Okay, we see they have 50 now, 50 Senate seats now after the midterm elections. And they maintain control of the Senate, but they're going to end up, Raphael Warnock, I think, is going to end up defeating Herschel Walker, and they'll have 51 Senate seats, which actually strengthens their control of the U.S. Senate. Right, so we'll discuss that also. Last Sunday, I talked briefly about this story that we posted on our fan page, the African History Network, dealing with Marla Gibbs. Marla Gibbs, who most of us first saw on the TV show The Jeffersons, playing the maid Florence Johnston, not Florence Johnson, Florence Johnston with a T. She played Florence Johnston for 10 seasons on The Jeffersons. And then she went on to portray Mary Jenkins on the TV show 227 on NBC. So there was an article from AtlantaBlackStar.com. Okay. There was an article from AtlantaBlackStar.com that we posted on our fan page, the African History Network, about a week or so ago. This article came out November 3rd. And she was on the Sherry Shepherd TV show, comedian and actress Sherry Shepherd. And Marla Gibbs said, "I will not do the show without a man." Okay, she said she would not do the TV show 227 without having a husband, because the producer of the show, Norman Lear, wanted her to be a single mother on that show, and she refused. Okay, we're going to talk about that as well, because this deals with depictions of African Americans in Hollywood, and these depictions controlled by Europeans in Hollywood. Okay, so we'll talk about that as well. Okay, and we'll give you some information about my online classes taking place on Tuesday, November 15th, and Wednesday, November 16th. My online classes take place Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. And from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. These are 2 online classes, online history classes that I teach. I'm not just a radio show host, I'm a historian as well. We have the information at our website, TheAHNShow.com, TheAHNShow.com. Okay, so you can register for those courses there. And we have the courses discounted also. Okay, they're on sale $60 each, or you get a bundle pack for $100. All right, now on the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. Because right now, knowledge corrects your own behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man or woman's thoughts, you control the compass of his or her actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Now, we do it a number of different topics here on the African History Network show. We do recurring events and politics and history, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, Kemet, to 22828. To sign up for our email newsletter, text the word Kemet, Kemet, to 22828. To sign up for our email newsletter. Also visit our website, TheAHNShow.com, TheAHNShow.com. Okay, so we have you can also email us right through the website as well. Okay, TheAHNShow.com, and I put our social media handles right at the top of our website also. Okay, so when you go to our website and you see the information for the radio show, the African History Network show, you will see our social media handles here also. I just updated that yesterday. Okay, and you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, pay some of the bills, etc. So we definitely need your support. All right, let's jump into the first topic here, and you can post your comments here. We'll share your comments also. Shout out to those watching us on Facebook and YouTube. L. Frankie on YouTube. And we have a number of people watching us. I'm just looking at these. We've got on Facebook, we've got Waltan Exa. Okay. And see Tracy Lee on YouTube as well. Our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep. All right. So Variety.com had a really good article dealing with Black Panther, the sequel. Okay. Box office, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever rules with $330 million global launch, $180 million debut. Okay, domestically. Let me pull up this article here. $180 million domestic debut. If we look at this article here, this is from November 13th, 2022. Marvel's Black Panther Wakanda Forever dominated the domestic box office in its debut, earning $180 million, over the weekend. Okay, that was domestically $180 million over the weekend, providing a much needed lift to beleaguered cinema. So we know that the movie industry at the theaters, they suffered a lot because of COVID-19 and people weren't going to the theaters. All right. So this movie is bringing a lot of people back to the theaters for the first time in a year or 2 years. The sequel demolished the record for a November opening in North America, soaring past the previous high water mark of $158 million set by the movie in 2013, The Hunger Games. Okay, The Hunger Games. And The Hunger Games did $158 million opening weekend in November. And then also The Hunger Games Catching Fire. Now, globally, the superhero adventure Black Panther Wakanda Forever netted a spectacular $330 million total globally, with $150 million of that figure in the overseas markets. Okay, 55 overseas markets, $150 million. Now, this is huge because the narrative that exists in Hollywood is that movies with a predominantly African-American cast, predominantly Black cast, don't do well overseas. Okay, so there is an aversion to having movies with a predominantly African-American cast. Okay, and Michelle Hernandez said highest November opening, supposedly. Yeah, it's the highest November. It's the highest November opening debut weekend for a film. Yes, it is. So what happens is, in Hollywood, you have the stereotype that movies with a predominantly African-American cast don't do well overseas. So people don't want to see that. All right. The first Black Panther movie, as well as this one, is destroying that stereotype. Okay. And when you can destroy that stereotype, then that opens it up for more movies where we are the center of the narrative, and we can have African-American writers like this movie here. Ryan Coogler and Joe Robert Cole, his writing partner, they're the writers of this film. Okay, they're the writers for this film, and Ryan Coogler is the director as well. When we can destroy those stereotypes, we can get more films that deal with not just Afrofuturism, which is good, but also deal with African history, African-American history, all different types of films. We need films dealing with ancient Africa and ancient Egypt and Nubia and Ghana, Songhai and Mali and Mansa Musa, all different types of things like this, okay? Now, Michelle Hernandez on YouTube said racist folks are saying the only reason a Black movie did this well was because it was tied to Marvel Comic Universe. Okay. It's still huge. Okay. It's still huge. And racist people are always going to try to come up with some excuse to take away our victories. Racist people are always going to try to come up with some excuse to take away our victories, to try to diminish our accomplishments. Okay, this is what they do. Okay, so we need to keep up. We need to keep on doing what we do. Okay, Black excellence, Black girl magic, all different types of things like this, African excellence, etc. In the movie Black Panther, Queen Ramonda says, "Show them who you are." Okay, that's what we need to do. We need to show the world who we are. Muhammad Ali, when he won the championship, the heavyweight championship in 1964, he said, "I shook up the world." We need to shake up the world. Okay, just like African Americans shook up the world with the results of the midterm elections because they thought it was going to be a red wave, and it was not a red wave. It was a red trickle. Okay, now back to the article from Variety. Its success, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, its success has a bittersweet undercurrent, however. That's because the filmmakers behind the sequel faced a shocking tragedy before production even commenced when Chadwick Boseman, star of the February 2018 movie Black Panther, who portrayed T'Challa, King of Wakanda, okay, he passed away of colon cancer in 2020. Okay, and he died suddenly of colon cancer. He was fighting a private battle with colon cancer for years, and publicly nobody knew about it. Okay, so when he passed away, it was a huge shock basically to everybody when he passed away. And I remember getting the news, and we were blown away by it. We saw pictures of him a few weeks before he passed away, and he did not look well. But a lot of people, we didn't know what was going on. Is he losing weight to play in a different role, or what? What's going on with him? Okay, but we also our brother Chadwick Boseman. So there was speculation. Okay, now Ryan Coogler and Joe Cole, because of the death of Chadwick Boseman, they had to rewrite the script because they already had a script written. So they had to totally change everything. So there was a lot of speculation. Okay, how are they going to be able to pull this off? What's the storyline going to be, etc. So Chadwick Boseman was only 43 years old when he passed away. In response, Ryan Coogler, director of the film and co-writer, refashioned Black Panther Wakanda Forever into a tribute for Chadwick Boseman. In the movie, the kingdom of Wakanda is grappling with the death of King T'Challa, and art imitates life situation that gave the film greater emotional resonance. And there are some, very emotional parts of the film as well. Most people during the film shed some tears. I shed some tears at the end of the movie also. You want to stay past the initial credits, just like any Marvel movie. Those that go see movies know you don't leave when they have the first credits at the end of the movie, because there's always an epilogue. There's always a second part. There's like a couple of minutes that sets up the next movie. Okay, so people that go see Marvel movies know this. All right, so don't make a rookie mistake and try to beat people out the door. And when they start going to the credits at the end, you run because you're gonna miss something. All right. Now, critics praised Ryan Coogler's deft handling of the difficult material, with Variety's Owen Gleiberman writing, Wakanda Forever has a slow burn emotional suspense. Wakanda Forever has a slow burn emotional suspense. Once the film starts to gather steam, it does not let up. Now, there were other hurdles facing Black Panther Wakanda Forever. The $250 million production was shot in the midst of COVID-19, the COVID-19 pandemic, and also had to contend with an injury to one of his stars, Letitia Wright, who plays Shuri, the younger sister of T'Challa. Okay. So Letitia Wright was injured during the filming, so they had to suspend filming for 2 or 3 months or so. That's to say nothing of the dramatically altered theatrical landscape that it now must navigate. When Black Panther hit screens 4 years ago, China and Russia were still major. China and Russia were still major film markets, but China has become more inaccessible to Hollywood fare, FARE, and Russia's invasion of Ukraine means that studio films no longer screen films in Russia. So that cuts off the Russian market. Okay. So things have changed since the first Black Panther movie came out. You have the COVID-19 pandemic, you have the Russian market cut off, okay, because Putin decided to invade Ukraine. And then China has become more inaccessible as well. So Black Panther Wakanda Forever will be a global powerhouse, but they're speculating that it probably won't hit the $1.4 billion mark that its predecessor achieved. And few films can hit that mark today. We'll see. Maybe Black excellence is going to defy the odds once again. We'll see if it hits 1.4 billion or exceeds 1.4 billion worldwide. Okay. All right, now, as it stands, Wakanda Forever has the second biggest domestic debut of this year, behind the $187.4 million launch of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Now, the Doctor Strange movies are okay. They're good. I'd rather see Black Panther. Okay, that's just me. I'd rather see Black Panther. Now, it also commands the third best pandemic era bow behind the aforementioned Doctor Strange adventure and Spider-Man No Way Home, which was a good movie also, which got started with $260 million. Tony Chambers, executive vice president and head of theatrical distribution at Disney, which is Marvel's parent company, ascribed the film's success to, quote, the Marvel track record as the quality of the filmmaking, the Marvel track record, as well as the quality of the filmmaking. Okay. Now, most films steered clear of Black Panther Wakanda. However, Steven Spielberg's semi-autographical The Fabelmans opened in limited release, premiering in 4 theaters in New York City and Los Angeles. The film earned a solid $160,000 for an average of $40,000 per screen. Steven Spielberg's movie. It faces its real test when it goes wide, nationwide on November 23rd. It's Steven Spielberg's movie. Okay, so read the rest of this here. It talks about some of the other movies. Black Adam starring The Rock. Black Adam, a comic book adventure from Warner Brothers and DC, nabbed second place at the domestic box office, grossing $8.6 million to push its domestic earnings to $151.1 million. Okay, so read the rest of this piece here from Variety.com. Box office, Black Panther Wakanda Forever rules with $330 million global launch, $180 million domestic debut. Okay, so that is huge. One of the reasons why the film Black Panther, the first one and the second one, are so successful is, yes, it was a Marvel movie. Yes, it's a Marvel character introduced in July 1966 in issue number 52 of the Fantastic Four comic book. Okay, the Black Panther character was introduced. So you have a following of those who read comic books and grew up reading comic books. You have a following there. And then in the 2016, I think it was the 2016 movie, Captain America, Civil War, you had Chadwick Boseman portraying Black Panther, and that set up the movie, the Black Panther movie franchise to launch in 2018 when it came out February 2018. Okay, so you had this momentum being built. Now, one of the reasons why the Black Panther franchise is so popular is that it's not another slave movie. And even though slavery is part of our history, and it's an important part of our history that we really do not understand. I'm a historian, I speak all across the country. We really don't understand the history of slavery. Is not properly taught in schools, things of this nature. Okay. But even though it is an important part of our history, it's not the only part of our history. And what the film Black Panther does is it shows what Africa could look like. Hold on. Okay. Just a second. It shows what Africa could look like if our history had never been interrupted by the transatlantic slave trade. Okay. So I'm going to show you some additional information that we didn't get to on Sunday night show, right? So I've done lectures on the film Black Panther. Okay. And let me grab something just a second here. Hold on just a minute. Okay, I'm back. All right, so I've done lectures on the film Black Panther. My main lecture is available at our website, TheAHNShow.com, TheAHNShow.com. These slides here are from my lecture, okay? And this deals with why the film Black Panther is so important and so powerful. This lecture here I did in 2018, April 2018. This is almost 3 hours of Black Panther analysis, African history, culture, and Afrofuturism. So this is available at our website, TheAHNShow.com, TheAHNShow.com. It's on sale, $10. So we got to see what Africa could look like if our history had never been interrupted by the transatlantic slave trade, because Wakanda is the most technologically advanced nation on the earth, in the world, in the movie. And they use, the world looks at Wakanda as a third world country because that's the type of image that Wakanda projects. It uses technology to disguise how technologically advanced they are and give the impression that they are a third world country. And that's designed to protect the vibranium, which is a mineral, and it's like the hardest metal in the world. And it can only be found in Wakanda, at least we thought till the sequel, where we find out that Prince Namor, played by Tenoch Huerta, reveals that vibranium is also in Talokan, his underworld nation. Okay. And this makes them vulnerable to Europeans coming to rob them of their natural resource. All right. So this is something that we see in the film Black Panther Wakanda Forever. So we got to see through Afrofuturism possibly what Africa could look like if our history had not been interrupted by the transatlantic slave trade. And we get to see African people ruling a nation, controlling natural resources, controlling an economy, being prosperous, engaging in creating technological inventions, etc. We get to see all this in the movie. So these are some slides from my actual presentation on Black Panther. The character of T'Challa, the Black Panther, was introduced in July 1966, issue 52 of the Fantastic Four comic book. And in issue 52, now it was a two-part story, okay? 52 and issue 53. In the Fantastic Four comic book, the Black Panther defeats the Fantastic Four. All right. And this was the first time we get to see a superhero of African descent in most of the comic books, like a major superhero of African descent. There have been minor heroes before this. We ain't never see an African superhero beat the Fantastic Four, though. Okay. And T'Challa reveals that he says, I am, as you see, hereditary chieftain of the Wakandas, and perhaps the richest man in all of the world. But it was not always so. My tale is one of tragedy and deadly revenge. Okay, so then the next issue, 53, they continue, and he talks about his father being killed, things like this, and he uses fighting against the Fantastic Four as a test to determine if his powers are strong enough for him to go avenge the death of his father, T'Chaka. So there was a good article from History.com, the official website of the History Channel, that came out in February 2018 that draws comparisons between T'Challa, Black Panther, who's the richest man in the Marvel Comics universe, and Mansa Musa, who's the richest man in the history of the world, emperor of the Mali Empire, becomes emperor in 1312 AD. And this article from History.com says, in the vast fictional universe of Marvel Comics, T'Challa, better known as Black Panther, is not only king of Wakanda, he's also the richest superhero of them all. And although today's fight for the title of wealthiest person alive involves a tug of war between billionaire CEOs like Elon Musk, who's losing money with Twitter, and I'm happy he's losing money also. He needs to take his behind back to South Africa and stay the hell out of American affairs. But that's a whole nother conversation. Even though today's fight for the title of wealthiest person alive involves a tug of war between billionaire CEOs, Mansa Musa has more in common with Marvel's first Black superhero. Mansa Musa has more in common with Marvel's first Black superhero. Now, this is the History Channel that's owned by white people. It's owned by A&E. This is the History Channel that has this article. This is some of the type of information that I have in my lectures dealing with the film Black Panther, because I spent 3 months of research. I did 3 months of research on the film Black Panther, studying the film, studying the 52-year history of the Black Panther comic book. I read over 100 articles dealing with the movie and dealing with the comic book. And then I read a book that dealt with the 52-year history of the Black Panther comic book, because when the movie came out in February 2018, African American History Month, which was a really good marketing strategy, even though I had been studying history for about 26 years at that time, I knew I was not qualified to do lectures on the film Black Panther until I did some deep research. Okay, now other people weren't that responsible, and they just put nonsense out here, and I could read what they put out and could tell it was nonsense, because I knew that I had to understand storylines, understand the Marvel comic universe, had to go research all that to understand what Ryan Coogler and Joe Robert Cole did. Okay, so if we go back to this article here, how's everybody doing? Share this broadcasting and social media platforms. We'll come to some of your comments here in just a minute. And be sure to order my lecture at our website, TheAHNShow.com. And dealing with the film Black Panther. And those in Detroit, you can come to the presentation I'm doing on Saturday, November 19th at Hannon House in Detroit. We have the information on the homepage of our website as well. Okay, so Mansa Musa became ruler of the Mali Empire in 1312 Common Era, or AD, taking the throne after his predecessor Abubakar II, for whom he served as deputy, went missing on a voyage he took by sea to find the edge of the Atlantic Ocean. Mansa Musa's rule came at a time when European nations were struggling due to raging civil wars and a lack of resources. Now, this is the History Channel telling you that the Mali Empire and West Africa are thriving in early 14th century Common Era, AD, 1312, while Europe is in disarray. They're coming out of the Dark Ages. They come out of the Dark Ages in the 1300s, going from the 1300s into the 1400s. They're dealing with disease. They're dealing with famine. 1347 to 1400, the bubonic plague hits, the Black Death. Europe loses 1/4 to 1/3 of their population. Somewhere between 25 million and 75 million people in Europe die because of the Black Death. Now, this is the History Channel telling you that West Africa is thriving. Okay, Mansa Musa's rule came at a time when European nations were struggling due to raging civil wars and lack of resources. During that period, the Mali Empire flourished thanks to ample natural resources like gold and salt. Now, these are Europeans telling you this. Okay, this is why we have to have a variety of movies that are made that tell this story. We need movies made about the Mali Empire and you know, Ghana and Songhai and Mali, things like this. The University of Sankore and the city of Timbuktu. All of this, okay? Yes, ancient Kemet, but not just ancient Kemet. We had other empires besides ancient Kemet, okay? Zimbabwe and Carthage, and with Hannibal Barca and the Phoenicians, of the Carthaginians who were descendants of the Phoenicians, all of this. Read the rest of this article here from history.com, March 19th, 2018, the month after the first Black Panther movie came out. This 14th century African emperor remains the richest person in history. This 14th century African emperor remains the richest person in history. Okay, so the film Black Panther relates to African history in various ways, and this is what I bring out in my lectures. Okay, on the film. Okay, and I did extensive research on the film and the comic book to be able to do these lectures and do the lectures responsibly. On the film Black Panther. So this is some of the type of information you'll get if you come to my presentation on November 19th. Okay, Saturday, November 19th. Sister Chiquita saw this lecture right here that I did. She got this lecture from me 2 or 3 months ago. I was at an event here in Detroit, and she was blown away by my presentation. She told people about it, and she said she wanted to hold a screening of the film and have me do a presentation afterwards. So this is taking place Saturday, November 19th. We have the information right on the homepage of our website, TheAHNShow.com. It's taking place in Detroit. So the movie screening is going to be at 11 a.m. at the MJR Universal 16 Theater in Detroit, 28600 DeQuinder Avenue in Detroit. And then we'll go over to Hannon House Center, which is right near Wayne State University in Detroit. Woodward, right near Warren Avenue. The luncheon is 2:30 p.m. to about 4:30 or 5. Okay, my presentation is going to start right around 3 p.m. Okay. And you can call Sister Chiquita 313-978-1089 for more information. 313-978-1089 for more information. You can also call the African History Network 313-462-0003. I'll try to answer your questions. I'm not the organizer of this event. She is. Okay. Tickets are $32.50 in advance by November 15th. She said you can buy tickets, I think, up until Wednesday because she has to give the theater a count. If you just want to come to the luncheon part, if you've already seen the movie, you just want to come to the luncheon, it's like $22 for that. Okay. But give her a call, RSVP, and then you can register for the online history classes that I teach as well. Wednesdays, next class is Wednesday, November 16th. So if you like this type of information that you see on the African History Network show, definitely register for our online history classes. This helps finance what we do. Financial research helps us stay on the air, keep broadcasting, etc. Wednesday, November 16th, 2022, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. We do the classes on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Wednesdays is Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. This is a 10-week online class. We're doing at least 10 sessions. We may do 11 this time, okay? How you doing, Jody? We may do 11 this time. I have to see. Because I have a ton of information. I'm the one to put together the curriculum for these 2 classes, so I want to make sure we get everything covered. Want to make sure we cover all the information. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded, so you can go back and watch the classes on demand anytime. So a year from now, 2 years from now, you can go back and watch the entire class. Click right here for register here. It takes you to the next page. And on the next page, just click on enroll. And the class is on sale $60, regularly $130. Next page is click on enroll. Click right here, enroll. And then you can start, as soon as you enroll, you can start watching the content. All right. So we have that one. And then the class that I teach on Tuesdays is From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. From the civil, this is another 10-week online class. I created the curriculum for this as well. I'm studying history 30 years. And we start in the year 1800. We look at the 1800 census. Then we look at 1803 with the Louisiana Purchase and the Haitian Revolution. Okay. From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. We'll do at least 10 sessions. We may do 11. I just have to see how long it takes me to get through all the information, because there are 2 binders full of information that we do it in this second class. So we look at something that's probably 60, 70 articles, book references, video clips, everything. Next class is Tuesday, November 15th, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Same format for this class as well. We have a bundle pack where you can get both classes. The bundle pack was $130. It's discounted to $100. Okay. So information for the bundle is right here. And I need to update. I need to refresh the screen because it's already updated with the updated information. Okay, so register for the classes, and we'll see you in class. You can also use this information with your children. I would say the content is PG-13. Okay, it's not overly graphic or anything like that. So you can use this with your children, and it's very visual. I do a PowerPoint presentation. We have book references, articles, video clips, all of that. So it's engaging as well. Okay, let's go back to this information here dealing with Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. And Tracy Lee on YouTube said, slavery is not our only history. You're absolutely correct. Remote admin JJ2 said, I caught it on 3D. It was a blast. Wakanda Forever. Child of K said, Chidi, African American, one place. Tracy Lee said she's happy Elon Musk is losing money. Michelle Hernandez on YouTube said, I've been hoping for a big movie on Mansa Musa and the Mali Empire for years. Yeah, there definitely needs to be one. Jody Rayner on YouTube, our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep. She said, Hotep, well said. Hotep is offering a piece in the ancient Middle Netter language, ancient language of the ancient Egyptians, for those that don't know. She said, well said. I'm not sure if Jody, think that's I'm not sure if it's male or female. Jody. I think that's male. Jody. I'm not sure because it's Jody and Jodie. So let me know, Jody. Not trying to be disrespectful. Well said. Our ancestors are related. Our ancestors are related to the great civilizations of all time, laying the foundation of the world. Okay. All right. So let's go back to this. Now, there was a good article from, there's another good, because I've read a number of different articles dealing with the film Black Panther. I'm getting ready for a presentation that I'm doing also, my first lecture on the film. We're going to talk about the taloconil hand sign that we see in the film, where that comes from. okay, amongst Prince Namor and his people. Where does that hand sign come from? Okay, we'll talk about that. But there was a good article from Yahoo News that deals with Wakanda Forever cast, on how the film explores shared experiences, how the film explores shared experiences of Black, and they say Latinx, it should be Latino. People need to stop using Latinx. But Latino people are so similar. Our wounds are so similar. It's something that we see represented in the film as well, okay? Because this film brings a dynamic of Mesoamerican culture into it, as well as African culture. All right, with them casting, with them making Prince Namor, the Submariner, Latino as opposed to a European. If we look at this article here, and let me pull up this information also. You can support the African History Network. You give us a thumbs up, give us a heart if you like this broadcast. You can also support us through Cash App, $ TheAHNShow through Cash App. Then also through PayPal, paypal.me/TheAHNShow, paypal.me/TheAHNShow. If we look at this article here, let me go back to it. All right, just a second. Hold on. Okay, here we go. If we go back to this article, hold on, let's see. Okay, this one right here. Wakanda Forever cast on how the film explores shared experiences of Black and Latino people. Our wounds are so similar. Now, this is written by Kevin Pollowy, Pollowy, senior correspondent at Yahoo Entertainment, November 11th, 2022. So the article says Black Panther still stands as the Marvel Cinematic Universe's most political movie, with the 2018 Best Picture Oscar nominee not only featuring a predominantly Black cast, but also exploring the complexities of what it means to be African, as represented by its hero Chadwick Boseman. Boseman's T'Challa versus African American via the worldview of its antagonist, Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger. So it stands to reason that co-writers Ryan Coogler and Joe Robert Cole have infused the new sequel, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, with similar real-world cultural commentary. As T'Challa's mother, played brilliantly by Angela Bassett, Queen Ramonda, okay, as T'Challa's mother, and Sister Shuri, played by Letitia Wright, and the residents of Wakanda mourn the death of their king, which is a seismic plot change rewritten into the script after the death of Chadwick Boseman in 2020. They are also confronted by the Mer people of Talokan, an underwater civilization that, like Wakanda, has been kept hidden from the rest of the world. Okay, that, like Wakanda, has been kept hidden from the rest of the world. The Talokan angrily emerged, ruled by the 500-year-old Prince Namor, played by Tenoch Huerta. The Talokan angrily emerged from the depths of their Atlantis-like kingdom, when the U.S. government begins mining the sea for vibranium. Okay, so what we deal with in the film is a shared experience of African nations and cultures, as well as Mesoamerica, Native Americans, things like this, dealing with colonizers trying to take their natural resources. Okay, so we see this shared experience depicted in the film. The precious, so vibranium is the precious element, is the Talokan's most prized resource. Another thing they share in common with Wakanda. Now, the Talokan, their civilization, what we see depicted in the film, based on ancient Mayan and Mesoamerican civilizations, and cast with all Latino actors. And the Talokan are forced to live underwater when their land was invaded by colonizers. Okay, so it's a deep movie on multiple levels, and we see this theme of fighting against colonizers. All right, and there's a scene where Prince Namor talks about his origins and his people. Prince Namor is half human and half he's half human and half like underwater creature. Okay, half human and half underwater creature, and his people, because of Spanish colonizers, they drink this potion that turns their skin blue and causes them to have gills like a fish, and then they go live in the water, underwater, to escape the colonizers. All right, he can live on the earth and he can live underwater, and he developed wings on his feet, things like this. So, and he ages very slowly, so he's actually 500 years old. So in the movie, they take you back in history 500 years, and you deal with the Spanish colonizing Mexico, what we call Mexico today. The African-based, okay, so the Talokan, based on ancient Mayan and Mesoamerican civilizations, and cast with all Latino actors, were forced underwater when their land was invaded by colonizers. The African-based Wakanda, per Marvel comic mythology, managed to avoid colonization by hiding itself from the world. So Wakanda was not conquered by colonizers. They were not enslaved, things like this. They hid themselves from the world. It also plays into Wakanda's Forever. It also plays into Wakanda Forever's larger theme, in which Ryan Coogler, the director, and company explore the shared experiences of Black and Latino and indigenous people across the world. Okay, and we know African people are the first people on the face of the earth, and also African people were the original people of what we call America, North, Central, and South America. African people were the original people here as well. This is some of the information we deal with in my online class, especially when we deal with the class I teach on Wednesdays, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. And we deal with information from Dr. David Imhotep and his book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. And his book thoroughly shows, his book came out in 2011, his book thoroughly shows the African presence, especially here in this land that was originally called Turtle Island. And there was a discovery made in 2004 in Allendale County, South Carolina in 2004 by Dr. Albert Goodyear, who's an archaeologist. And they found 13 different types of evidence. 13 different types of evidence thoroughly documenting an African presence in the land that we call the United States of America. Now, this is long before 1619. Yes, 1619 is an important date in history. But 1619, as I constantly have to correct people, and even as I have to sometimes correct some of our scholars, 1619 was not the 1619 was not when African people first came to this land. We were here going back at least 51,700 years ago. So their discovery in Allendale County, South Carolina, they found artifacts, architecture, campsites, footprints in lava, genetic M174D haploid groups dealing with DNA and genetics. They found Egyptian writings, footprints in lava, genetic M174D haploid groups, linguistics, paintings, skulls, skeletons, structures, and tools. They found 13 different types of evidence thoroughly documenting an African presence in the land we call the United States of America, going back at least 51,700 years ago. Now, these were the Khoisan. The Khoisan have the oldest DNA on the planet. They come from Southern Africa. They're the ancestors to the Ainu and the Twa. These were the short-statured Africans. They go all around the world. And they were here in the land that we call the United States of America as well. Now, this is a picture of Dr. Albert Goodyear, and this references an article from ScienceDaily.com that this references an article from ScienceDaily.com that came out November 18th, 2004. November 18th, 2004. It's called New Evidence Puts Man in North America 50,000 Years Ago. And ScienceDaily.com is a scientific website. And they have scientific discoveries there, archaeological discoveries, etc. Here's their summary of what the article says. Here is ScienceDaily.com's summary of what the article says. Radiocarbon tests of carbonized plant remains, where artifacts were unearthed last May. So that would be May 2004. Last May, along the Savannah River in Allendale County, South Carolina, by University of South Carolina archaeologist Dr. Albert Goodyear, indicate that the sediments containing these artifacts are at least 50,000 years old, meaning that humans inhabited North America long before the last ice age. So who were these humans? These were the Khoisan, who have the oldest DNA on the planet. Okay, this is who these humans were. All right, now if we go back to this piece from Yahoo News, Yahoo Entertainment, Wakanda Forever casts on how film explores shared experiences of Black and Latino people. Our wounds are so similar. Our wounds are so similar. And let me put this up here. Let's see here. Let me change this caption also. Hold on. Microsoft Word is acting up on me. Okay, so this article here. Let's see here. Okay, let's go back to this. Let's continue. Now, here's a scene from the film also. Prince Namor confronts Queen Ramonda. Okay, so right here. Let's pick it up right here. Just a second here. All right. Okay, hold on. The computer's freezing up. Okay, stand by just a minute here. Okay, let me pull that article back up. I just lost it. All right, here we go. Okay, so the Talocan, based on ancient Mayan and Mesoamerican civilizations and cast with all Latinx actors, were forced underwater when their land was invaded by colonizers. The African based Wakanda, per Marvel mythology, managed to avoid colonization by hiding itself from the world. It all plays into Wakanda's larger theme, in which director Ryan Coogler and company, explore the shared experiences of Black, Latino, Indigenous people across the world. In many ways, the film's budding rivals, Shuri and Namor, are the new T'Challa and Killmonger. Ryan Coogler said, quote, the things that our cultures have in common, I think it's been much discussed and much written about. The things that our cultures have in common, I think it's been much discussed and much written about. He said, what transpired on the continent of Africa, if you think about it, what transpired in the Americas, you'll see similarities. But in this movie, they both just kind of want to be left alone. Okay, but in this movie, they both just kind of want to be left alone. Especially, he goes on to say, especially if you contrast Wakanda, which had never been colonized, with these Talocan who fled colonization. There's a conversation about indigenous people and their experiences, which I think is really interesting, says producer Nate Moore, because it is a shared experience, and it's unfortunately globally shared experience by a lot of people. It's an unfortunately globally shared experience by a lot of people. And I think the conversation that Namor is having with Wakanda is, hey, here's why I'm so intent on protecting my people, because the only reason we live where we live is because we were fleeing this thing. They were fleeing colonization. That probably could happen again and could happen to you. So Nate Moore goes on to say, producer Nate Moore goes on to say, and I think that makes it timely. I think that maybe there's a feeling that colonization was a thing of the past, but it's still happening. Okay. I think maybe there's a feeling that colonization was a thing of the past, but it's still happening. Okay, here's the cast here also of Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Some of the cast members. Now, Lupita Nyong'o, who's Mexican born and Kenyan raised, who plays Lupita Nyong'o's character, of uh, was it not Shuri? It's I forgot forgot her name in Black Panther. It'll come to me. Um, oh, just a second. What is that? Nakia. Nakia and Black Panther. Okay, so Lupita Nyong'o's character. Let me go back to this here. Okay, says Lupita Nyong'o, Mexican born and Kenyan raised. It draws a correlation of how distinct the experiences are, but also how similar. Our wounds are so similar, and we see this in this story. Our wounds are so similar, and we see this in this story. Talokan echoes Wakanda as much as the Latino experience can echo the Black experience. And I just love how we go head to head in this film. And at the end of the day, it's okay. Where is our point of truce? At the end of the day, it's okay. Where is our point of truce? TRUCE. When do we see ourselves in the mirror? Now, Tanaka Reta, who plays Prince Namor, echoes similar sentiments, citing, and he's Latino, echoes similar sentiments, citing the events of the Spanish conquest of the Aztec Empire, also known as the conquest of Mexico, in the early 1500s. He said, in the end, we share the same wounds. This catastrophe, this Holocaust that happened to our people, our ancestors, it was almost at the same time of the transatlantic slave trade. Now, it was actually during, if you look at the 1500s, it's going on during that, and it's at the hands of the Spanish, because the Spanish were the first ones involved in the transatlantic slave trade after the Portuguese get involved in 1441. And just, everything that the Moors took into, the African Moors took into Europe and taught the Portuguese and especially the Spanish, all that's going to come back to kick us in the behind. In the end, we share the same wounds. This catastrophe, this Holocaust, happened to our people, our ancestors. It was almost at the same time of the transatlantic slave trade. Now, years later, we are trying to reconcile with ourselves. Now, years later, we are trying to reconcile with ourselves and with the other people. So I think this movie and this kind of narrative helps to create this union and bondage among all of us. But yeah, we definitely share the same kind of story. Okay, so check out the rest of this. Check out the rest of this article here from Yahoo Entertainment. Wakanda Forever cast on how film explores shared experiences of Black and Latino people. Our wounds are so similar. Okay, so check that one out. All right, now there was a piece from in the movie, we see a hand symbol that the Talokan people make. And we know the iconic Wakanda salute, right? Which comes from ancient Kemet. Ancient Egypt is the position of the Nasubites or the pharaohs when they are deceased. And it's a symbol of power. So we see this hand symbol of the Talokan. And there was a good article that dealt with the significance of that hand symbol and the origins of it. So there is a piece from collider.com called "What Does the Talokanil Hand Sign Mean?" Let me pull this one up here from collider.com. This article is from November 11th, 2022. Let me pull this up. What does the Talokanil hand sign mean? All right, let's go to this here. Okay, let me increase the size of this. Okay, yeah, this is from November 11th, 2022. So their battle cry is "Rise Talokan." Like the battle cry for Wakanda is "Wakanda Forever." Okay, their battle cry is "Rise Talokan." And here you see Prince forming the sign, the hand sign. So while Black Panther's corner of the Marvel Cinematic Universe has engaging stories and complex characters, Wakanda's success is also due to the imagery crafted under the leadership of director Ryan Coogler. Above all stands the Wakanda Forever symbol, which every Marvel fan can emulate by crossing their arms. Is right over left. Okay, it is never left over right. You may when 99.9% of the time when you see in the film, when you see them do the Wakanda salute, it's always right over left, because that's the position of in the Subitis when they're in the sarcophagi, when they're in the coffins. It's always right over left. You may see an extra, when the extra actors with a non-speaking role, you may see them mess up and do left over right. They may be left hand dominant. It's always right over left. Okay, so when you all take your picture, let me just tell you, okay, when you all go see the movie and you take your pictures in front of the big poster and sign of the film Wakanda Forever, and you do the Wakanda salute, please do right over left. Okay, I'm just telling you, don't do left over right. That's a rookie mistake. All right. So Black Panther Wakanda Forever similarly explores the culture of Talokan, giving the underwater kingdom its own war cry and hand symbol. But what does the Talokanil hand symbol represent? The answer lies in Namor's Tenach Hereta origin and Mesoamerican mythology. Okay. The plumed serpent god, that we see in several Mesoamerican societies. The feathered serpent or plumed serpent is a recurring divinity in several Mesoamerican societies. For example, the Aztecs had Quetzalcoatl, the Quiche Maya had Tohil, and the Yucatec Maya had Kukulkan, Kukulkan, Kukulkan. In Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, instead of keeping Namor's ties with the legendary city of Atlantis, which we see in the comic books, he rules Atlantis. Marvel Studios created a whole new underwater kingdom, Talokan. The city is inspired by the mythical Aztec paradise, spelled Tlaloccan, which explains why the plumed serpent is still worshipped there. In the comic books, Atlantis is the home of the Homo mermanus, a species that evolved parallel to the Homo sapiens and ruled the seven seas for millennia. However, the Marvel Comic Universe underwater kingdom is much more recent, beyond being forged in the 16th century, the 1500s, when the Spanish ravaged Mesoamerican cultures, stole their precious minerals, and mass murdered their people. To escape the threat of the Spanish colonizers, a tribe decided to take a ceremonial plant that grew in vibranium-rich soil. Okay, so we see this explained in the movie, and we see the origins of Namor, the Submariner. Now, the plant changes the biology of the people who take it, giving them gills, like aquatic animals, the ability to communicate with underwater creatures, and enhanced physical abilities. Deciding to leave the surface world behind, the Talokan departed to the seas, where they built the city of Talokan. Now, since the Marvel Comic Universe's underwater people come from a Mesoamerican society, it makes sense that they still worship deities common to Maya and Aztec, to the Mayans and the Aztecs. However, it's curious to notice the Talokanils refer to the plumed serpent god as Kukulkan, the Yucatec Maya name, while Aztec myths inspire the city. Okay, so you see the Yucatec Mayan culture represented, as well as the Aztec culture represented. So just like Wakanda is an amalgamation of multiple African countries, Talokan picks up bits and pieces of different Mesoamerican nations. Even so, it's no wonder that Talokan chose the plumed serpent as their city's symbol, especially after the birth of Namor. Okay, so there are 11 different African cultures represented in the first Black Panther, and we see a lot of this back in the second movie. And Ruth Carter, who's the costume designer for first movie and the second one, Ruth Carter studied 11 different African cultures for 6 months. Okay. And she incorporates that into the film. So we see different styles of dress and different designs, etc., representing 11 different African nations. When you look at in the first Black Panther and this one here at the end of the movie, when you see the African people of Wakanda on the side of the mountain, standing on different levels of the mountain, and they have on different types of African garb, different designs, etc. This represents the 11 different African cultures, but those people are representing the 18 different tribes of Wakanda. Wakanda is a nation, but there are different ethnic groups in the nation of Wakanda. There are 18 different ethnic groups in the nation of Wakanda. And you have the Panther clan, you have the Jabari tribe, different things like this. So you have 18 different ethnic groups or tribes in Wakanda. So we see influence from the Amazulu or the Zulu of South Africa in the hat that Queen Ramonda wears. Okay, the hat with the flat disc at the top that's worn by usually is worn by wealthy women in South Africa. Okay, we see the representation, we see the African representation here, like from the first movie, the way these people here are dressed. This is influenced by the Maasai of Kenya and Tanzania. Okay, and then when we look at these are all slides from my presentation, by the way. When we look at the Dora Milaje, the Dora Milaje were introduced in the 1990s into the Black Panther comic book. Dora Milaje means adored ones. Their costume is influenced by the Maasai of Kenya and Tanzania. Okay, this is where the design comes from. So Ruth Carter did her thing. That's a bad sister. Ruth Carter was also the costume designer on the movie Malcolm X, and she talked about how the movie Malcolm X, it was harder to do the costumes for that because you're doing costumes from like the 1930s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. You're dealing with different decades, and you have to do the costumes for like all the people in the scene. Okay, but that's a bad sister right there. So we see these different African cultures represented in the first and the second film also. In the first film, the Hong Kong scene at the casino in Hong Kong, there's a Pan-African reference to the Pan-African flag in the color scheme that T'Challa, Nakia, and General Okoye are wearing. T'Challa's wearing black. Nakia, played by Lupita Nyong'o, is wearing green. And General Okoye, played by Danae Gurira, is wearing red. And this is in reference to the Pan-African flag, the red, black, and green, the Bandera, which is adopted at the International Convention of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, which was founded in 1914 in Jamaica by Marcus Garvey. The International Convention, August 13th, 1920, they adopt the Pan-African flag. And this is something Ryan Coogler talks about this in an interview with, I think it was Variety magazine. He did an interview where he breaks down what that symbolism means. So this is not me like decoding something. This is not me coming to my own conclusion. No, this is what Ryan Coogler said. And Ryan Coogler put this into the film. Okay. Now, I don't know if Disney knew what he was doing. I don't know if Disney knew what he was doing when he did it, but they know now. But he got that in the film. Okay. So when I teach, when I do my lectures on the film Black Panther, and this is why Sister Chiquita, when she saw my lecture on it, she was blown away. And she said she wanted me to speak at this lunch and learn that she's doing after people see the film. Because I take this to a whole nother level because of the level of research that I did to be able to do my lectures. And I'm also a historian. Okay. All right. Now, Tracy Lee on YouTube said, Ruth Carter is definitely the truth. The costumes are beautiful. And Ruth Carter also won an Oscar as well for her costume design. And Hannah Belcher won an Oscar for the set design of Black Panther also. Okay, and let's see here. Okay, so how's everybody doing? Give us a thumbs up, give us a heart, give us a like on this broadcast. Hopefully you're learning a lot. This is, we had technical difficulties with our normal Sunday broadcast. Normally we're on Sundays, 9 p.m. 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so I'm doing the show again today with some additional information. We're going to talk about midterm elections here in just a minute as well. Who still needs to register for the online history classes that I teach on Tuesdays and Wednesdays? Our Wednesday class is from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. And we have classes coming up Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Tuesday, I teach ancient from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. Wednesdays is Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Okay. Visit our website, TheAHNHistoryNetwork.com, TheAHNHistoryNetwork.com. We have the information right there on the homepage for the class. You can register for it. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch it anytime. So you don't have to be in class. You don't have to worry about trying to get to class at a certain time. The classes are discounted. They're on sale $60, regularly $130. And then on Tuesdays, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., it's from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement of Black Power. So these classes was doing 8 weeks, but they're going to be at least 10 weeks. I'm going to make sure you get all the information in. We also have a bundle pack. You can register for both classes. It's discounted for $100. Okay. And you can use this information with your children as well. I would say the information is PG-13. All right. Okay, let's go back to, I want to go back to this here. We were talking about the hand sign, where that hand sign comes from that you see people at Talokan making. So I want to go back to that. Also, the lecture that I did in 2018 on the film Black Panther is available at our website, TheAHNHistoryNetwork.com. It's right on the home page. Okay, when you scroll down the page, you'll see the lectures there. Let's go back to this here. Okay. So just like Wakanda is an amalgamation of multiple African cultures, Talokan picks up bits and pieces of different Mesoamerican nations. Talokan picks up different pieces of Mesoamerican nations. Even so, it's no wonder that Talokan chose the plumed serpent as their city's symbol, especially after the birth of Namor. Now, Namor's mutation led to the hand symbol. Namor's mutation led to the hand symbol. Namor was still in his mother's womb when she ingested the sacred plant and became an underwater creature. The process activated a mutation in Namor's genes, giving him special abilities once he was born. For starters, Namor is stronger and faster than other Talokanils. He also has increased longevity, making him age slowly. So he's actually 500 years old. Okay. This is why he's recounting history when the Spanish colonizers came. Okay. So he's almost 500 years old. Namor is still in his prime. Namor's mutation also prevents him from turning blue when getting out of the water and allows him to absorb oxygen from the air, an ability to the Talokanils lost. Finally, Namor was born with wings on his heels, allowing him to fly. Just like the plumed serpent god, Namor is a being who crawls on the earth with his people while he can still soar through the skies. Now, it's easy to understand why Namor's birth seemed like a miracle in the 16th century. leading his people to baptize him as Kukulkan and choose him to guide them. So for almost 5 centuries, Namor has been ruling Talokan and helping forge his people's culture. That's why the Talokanils join their hands to mimic a serpent's mouth. That's why the Talokanils join their hands to mimic a serpent's mouth out of respect for the plumed serpent god, Talokan's leader and protector. Okay, so while when we look at the historical origin of Talokan's hand symbol, while Black Panther Wakanda Forever gives an in-universe reason for Talokan's hand symbol, it's worth noting that the gesture has a historical origin. A Twitter user named Aztec Empire reveals the hand symbol mimics several pictures from Mesoamerican cultures. Another curious detail is that Talokan's war cry, Rise Talokan in English, Rise Talokan, it's Lakikik Talokan, which means Rise Talokan, was not in the original script. In an interview from Cinema Blend, actor Alex Livanali revealed that the Latino cast of Wakanda Forever actually asked to have a symbol as powerful as the Wakanda salute. Okay, the Latino cast of Wakanda Forever asked to have a symbol as powerful as the Wakanda salute. So director Ryan Coogler and his film's crew did their research to come up with the hand symbol and the war cry, a fact that underlies how filmmaking is a collective work. Okay, so this is where this comes from. So check out this piece here. What does the Talokanil hand sign mean? This is from Collider.com from November 11th, 2012, let's say 2022, November 11th, 2022. All right. So check out the film and be sure to, those in the Detroit area, be sure to come to the screening and then the presentation that I'm doing on Saturday, November 19th. Saturday, November 19th at Hannon House here in Detroit near Wayne State on Woodward Avenue. We have the information right on the homepage of our website. Let me bring it up again, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com. So the screening is for the whole thing. Okay, you're warmly invited to Everything Black, Black Panther 2. I'm going to have Chiquita update the website. Chiquita, this is not the sister that used to be the board operator on my Sunday night show. Her name was Chiquita. So this is not her. This is Chiquita. But we're doing the Black Panther Wakanda Forever movie screening and lunch and learn. Saturday, November 19th, 2022. The screening is at 11 a.m. at the MJR Universal 16 Theater, located at 28600 DeQuinder Avenue in Detroit, 28600 DeQuinder in Detroit. Then the lunch and learn, where I will be speaking, is taking place 2:30 to about 4:30 or so. It's at Hannon House Center, located at 4750 Woodward Avenue in Detroit, 4750 Woodward Avenue in Detroit. Contact Chiquita at 313-978-1089 for more information, and to RSVP 313-978-1089. Tickets are $32.50 if you purchase by November 15th. You can purchase after that, like either Wednesday or Thursday may be the cutoff, because she has to give the numbers and the money to the theater. Okay. Now, if you just want to come to the lunch and lecture portion, that's like $22.50. So talk to her about that. If you've already seen the movie, don't have to see it. You don't, and you just want to come to the lunch and lecture portion, you can do that. Contact Chiquita. All right. Also, be sure to register for our online history classes that I teach. We have the information on the homepage of our website as well. Okay, now I want to talk about midterm elections, midterm shockers. Republicans it was supposed to be a red wave. Republicans were supposed to just totally demolish Democrats, and they were supposed to pick up 20, 30, 40 seats in the House of Representatives and things like this. And they were supposed to take back control of the Senate, all that stuff. That did not happen. If we look at the live updates, and I'm going to go to a clip here from Roland Martin Unfiltered also in just a minute. If we look at the live updates from the New York Times, okay, we see that Democrats are maintaining control of the Senate, okay, which is good because you can still get federal judges confirmed and Supreme Court judges confirmed. As it stands right now, Democrats have 50 seats in the House, in the Senate, and Republicans have 49. The Senate seat in Georgia is still up for grabs. Okay, there's a runoff election in Georgia between Senator Raphael Warnock and Herschel, that's just my baby's daddy, Walker. As it stands now, the projections are for the House. Republicans are projected to end up with 219 seats in the House with a razor thin majority because it takes 218 seats. There's still about 14 races that still have to be called. Okay. So if we look at, I've been looking at the reporting from NBC News. Okay. So if we go to NBCnews.com and look at their reporting for the midterm elections, they're projecting that Democrats will end up with 215 seats in the House, and Republicans will have 220 seats in the House. It takes 218 votes to have a majority in the House of Representatives. It takes 218 votes to have a majority in the House. Now, this is plus or minus 3. This is a error of a margin error of plus or minus 3, because there are about 14 House races that still have to be called. They're still waiting on results, final results, and a good number of them are in California. So it's possible that Democrats could end up with 218, but it's more likely that Republicans take control of the House. But it's going to be really hard for them to govern the House with such a razor-thin majority. Okay, so this is an example of how elections have consequences. All right, so check out this information here. We know that in Arizona, Arizona's governor race, we know that Katie Hobbs defeated the crazy conspiracy theorist Carrie Lake, who was backed by Donald Trump. We got that news on Monday evening. Okay, Arizona governor and Arizona governor's race, post-election ballot tallies narrow the margin. Okay, but Carrie Lake won that. And let me see something here. Let me come back to that. Let me do a screen. Let me refresh on that. If we look at, now there was an article from Politico.com that dealt with the fact that there would be no red wave. Okay, it dealt with the fact that there would be no red wave. And it laid out 5 reasons. Let's see if I can pull that up here. Now, I told people on the African History Network show, I said on Roland Martin Unfiltered, I said, bricks don't hit back, like Bruce Lee used to say, bricks don't hit back. I said, bricks don't hit back and polls don't vote. Don't listen to these prognosticators on MSNBC and CNN predicting this red wave. Okay. I said, we need to go out and vote because that's what really matters. Polls don't vote and bricks don't hit back. Where is this here? Hold on. Okay. The red wave that wasn't. 5 takeaways from a disappointing night for the GOP. And all these people are blaming Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump is blaming everybody except himself. He needs to listen to that song by Michael Jackson, I'm Starting with the Man in the Mirror. He needs to listen to that song. He's blaming everybody else. He's even blaming Melania Trump. So the red wave that wasn't. 5 takeaways from a disappointing night for the GOP. Donald Trump's favorite candidates prove a drag to Republicans, running well behind others in the party. So this is from November 9th, 2022. There was no red wave. Republicans, though still poised to take the House, underperformed, while Democrats breathed a huge sigh of relief. Okay, it was a good night for President Joe Biden and the miserable one for Donald Trump. 5 key takeaways. Trump is damaged goods. Now he's supposed to announce possibly the day that he's running for re-election. He's desperate. He has all these investigation in New York, one in Georgia. Merrick Garland is still investigating, dealing with the over 200 documents, classified documents that Trump had at Mar-a-Lago. There'll probably be criminal prosecution behind that. So he's in deep trouble. Trump is still the dominant figure in the Republican Party, and he'll be the favorite to win the GOP nomination for president if, as expected, he runs again. But he's much weaker this time, and I wouldn't be so sure he's going to win the nomination. I wouldn't be so sure he's going to win the nomination. Just like the pollster said it's going to be a red wave, I wouldn't be so sure. Okay, and I think in whoever runs against him, I think it's going to be a bloodbath also. Biden has a calendar problem, number 2, with Tuesday looking a lot better for Tuesday, November 8th, looking a lot better for Democrats than expected. It's possible we'll see some rallying around Biden. Presidents who suffered much more punishing midterms went on to win second terms. So give Biden his due, but it's hard to argue that Democrats overperformed Tuesday because of Biden rather than in spite of him. His approval rating hovering around 40% is dismal and has been all year. He'll turn 80 this month. And earlier this year, a majority of Democrats polled said they prefer someone else to be the party's nominee. Okay, that's stupid. I think a lot of people are going to change that. He has had the most successful presidency with a 50-50 Senate, and his party defied 86 years of history and maintains the Senate and only has a minimal loss in the House of Representatives. So I think people are going to rethink a lot of that nonsense. Okay. Let's see. Extremism is a Democratic issue too. Okay. All year. And especially in the closing days of the campaign, Democrats cast themselves as a mainstream alternative to the excesses of the GOP. But despite the overturning of Roe versus Wade and the hundreds of election deniers Republicans put on the ballot. There were at least 299 election deniers running for political office. Voters on Tuesday did not appear to see it that way. Voters on Tuesday did not appear to see it that way. In preliminary exit polls, about equal portions of voters said Democrats and Republicans were too extreme. The exit polls mirrored a poll released just before the election by the center-left group Third Way. It found voters viewed Republicans and Democrats as similarly far from the center, It hurts Republicans that abortion ranked high on voters' list of concerns, just behind inflation, and some of the most prominent Republican election deniers went down, including Doug Mastriano, who was running for governor in Pennsylvania, like Carrie Lake actually did lose. This article came out before Carrie Lake lost in Arizona, running for governor as well. Okay. Then also the Democratic map fails to grow. Another key takeaway. And okay, so read the rest of this here. Republicans and Kevin McCarthy are in for a tough 2 years. The math is still on the side of Republicans taking the House, and the political problem confronting a party anytime it gains power is that it will be expected to govern. Okay, Republicans are not going to be able to govern with this very slim majority, but it's going to be even more complicated for Republicans than usual in 2023 next year. For one thing, hardliners in the GOP conference will now be part of a majority. No longer will the Marjorie Taylor Greenes or Matt Gaetzes of the GOP be tweeting in the wind. For Kevin McCarthy, the likely future speaker, but is not the Freedom Caucus, the House Freedom Caucus, which used to be the Tea Party, they're going to really challenge him on this. So it's not clear if he's going to be able to get the 218 votes to be Speaker of the House. We'll see. So will his party's underwhelming performance on Tuesday, he set expectations much higher. Okay. All right. So read the rest of this here. The red wave that wasn't. 5 takeaways from a disappointing night for the GOP. This is from Politico.com. All right, now there was a good article from, okay, if we look at this here from NBC News. This has some updates here from NBC News. And also we know here in the state of Michigan, we know Governor Greg State Jocelyn Benson and our Attorney General Dana Nessel, they all won re-election. They defeated these crazy Republicans. And then also the state legislature flipped, both chambers of the state legislature flipped to Democrats for the first time in 40 years. So we had a good night here in Michigan. Okay. In GOP feud, Senator Rick Scott advisor calls out McConnell team over Georgia runoff. So the Georgia runoff elections, you can look at updates here for from NBC News. This is under midterm elections 2022. The Georgia runoff election for the Senate is taking place December 6th, 2022. It's between Senator Reverend Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker. Okay. And they were the 2 top vote getters. So the campaigns are gearing up for this. The election is taking place shortly after Thanksgiving, which is usually harder to get people to come out and vote after Thanksgiving. Okay, it's before the new year, but it's before Christmas, but after Thanksgiving. I want to pull up this article here from this one from NBC News. Hold on just a second here. All right, just a minute. This is freezing up here. Okay, give us a thumbs up, give us a heart, give us a like on this broadcast, everybody watching. Okay, I need the article on Herschel Walker. There was one piece that I saw. Walker campaign lays out strategy for Georgia Senate runoff, calling Walker completely unqualified. He's absolutely correct. Herschel Walker is completely unqualified. This piece right here from NBC News. A Warnock campaign lays out strategy for Georgia Senate runoff, calling Walker completely unqualified. In new memo, campaign manager Quentin Fulks, Fulks, projected confidence that the Democratic senator would win a 6-year term, labeling him a proven vote getter. This is from November 10th, 2022. There's another article I'm trying to find here. Just a second, because this stuff is acting up on me. Hold on. Let's see. Okay, this one here, this talks about the runoff election. This is the main one that I wanted that deals with the runoff election. Okay, so Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker are headed to a December runoff. Senator Reverend Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker are headed to a December runoff in the Georgia Senate race. Okay. The contest pitted Senator Warnock, who was elected a 2020 special election, against Herschel Walker, a former football star who was encouraged by former President Donald Trump to run. So a lot of people are upset with Donald Trump because he picked a lot of these candidates who are unelectable. And this is something Mitch McConnell alluded to as well 2 or 3 months before, probably about 3 months before the election, like this past summer. The reason why you had a lot of these crazy Republican candidates is largely because of Donald Trump. And he picked them. Now, the Georgia Senate race is headed to a runoff, NBC News projected Wednesday, with neither Democratic Senator Reverend Raphael Warnock nor Republican challenger Herschel Walker topping the necessary 50% required under state law to win on the first ballot, okay, in the general election. The runoff will be on December 6th. The Georgia Secretary of State's office said both campaigns were bracing for a runoff Tuesday night as results showed a close contest. Now, the contest pitted Warnock, who was elected in 2020, a special election, against Herschel Walker, a former football star who was encouraged by former President Donald Trump to run. Walker, a first-time political candidate, drew an early endorsement from Trump and all but cleared the Republican primary field. Now, Herschel Walker used to play in the USFL for the New Jersey Generals, and the New Jersey Generals was a football team that Donald Trump owned, okay? So that was the connection between Donald Trump and Herschel Walker. And Donald Trump, you know, him picking Herschel Walker is really all right. All right. So we're back. Okay. We're back. We lost connection there. Okay. So Herschel Walker got the nomination because of Donald Trump. And Herschel Walker used to play for the New Jersey Generals in the USFL. USFL was the United States Football League. They were like the competitors to the NFL. They only lasted a few seasons. So Donald Trump used to own the New Jersey Generals, and that was a team that Herschel Walker played for. So that was the connection there. And Trump picks Herschel Walker to run against Senator Raphael Warnock because they want to pit they want to pit one black guy against another black guy. And to Donald Trump, it doesn't matter who the black candidate is, okay, or how dumb they are. This gives a lot of white people in Georgia the excuse to say, hey, I'm not racist. I voted for the black guy, okay? But Herschel Walker is totally unqualified to be a U.S. senator. He doesn't understand politics. And he's going to do the bidding of the white nationalist party, the GOP. So he's going to support policies, generally speaking, that are not beneficial for African Americans. So this is why Reverend Warnock definitely has to win this race. Okay, so check out that article from NBC News also. This one right here. Senator Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker are headed to a December runoff in the Georgia Senate race. This is from November 9th, 2022, NBC News. So if Democrats win that race, it will be 51-49 in the Senate, which gives definitely control of the Senate, and it strengthens their stance in the Senate. Okay, you all can support the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me / the AHN Show. This helps us keep doing the research and stay on the air, keep broadcasting, pay some of the bills, etc. We definitely need your support, because when election day, when I went to Washington, D.C., I paid for that trip out of pocket. Okay, so that trip, that was, all things considered, that was about $700. Airfare, hotel, all that stuff, that was about $700. We have the information on the homepage of our website, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Let me pull this up here. So we have the Cash App and PayPal information right on the homepage as well. Just click on the link there. Okay, now this is our official Cash App account, $ the AHN Show is our tag, $ the AHN Show. When you go to it, it says Michael, okay, and it usually shows my picture there. These other ones here are fake African History Network Cash App accounts. I've identified 5 of them. They're fake African History Network Cash App accounts. I'm trying to get this shut down. I had Cash App launched an investigation. They're extremely slow because these fake accounts have been stealing money from us. Here's our tag. You can click right there on the link, and it takes you right here. So you have the barcode right there also. Okay. And then we have the link for PayPal as well. And then my DVD lectures are there on the homepage, as well as the information for our online classes. When you scroll down, it has the info for the lectures, and you can watch this YouTube video right here. This is the interview I did with Professor James Small, dealing with the film The Woman King and the Real History of the West African Kingdom of Dahomey. It's on our website. It's on our YouTube channel, but we have the video here on our website also. If you scroll down past the information for the online classes, it has my DVD lectures, some of my lectures, and this one right here is on the film Black Panther. So that's $10. That's the almost 3-hour lecture on the film Black Panther. So we have that shipping out this week. I'll post a link here on the thread of the broadcast also. All right. So I want to go to this clip here from Roland Martin Unfiltered. Do we have because I was so Tuesday, November 8th, election day, we did Roland did a 7-hour broadcast from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. election day coverage. That's why I was in Washington, D.C. I was one of the panelists, so I was in studios. My first time being in the studios, even though I've been a panelist on Roland Martin Unfiltered for 2 years. That was my first time actually going to the studio. So he has a fantastic studio there. I took pictures, and we ended up doing 8 hours. So it was about 3 a.m. when I left the studio, and I had to head back to the hotel. Left the hotel at 4 a.m. to head to the airport because I had a 6 a.m. flight back to Detroit. So I want to go to this clip here, and this is an excerpt of it. This is on Roland's YouTube channel, Roland S. Martin, and we'll put this on our website also. Here is an excerpt of the coverage that we did. Let's go to this here a second. Okay, let's go to this clip.
I really don't see that in the state of Florida, and I think that's going to be reflected, unfortunately, what we're going to see tonight.
Well, Michael, one of the things that we can see, look, what's happening in Michigan, obviously, you've got a huge gubernatorial race there, but you also have, you know, the ballot issue that when it came to redistricting and what Republicans were doing there in that state, they tried to keep the abortion issue off the ballot. Right. I mean, people need to understand how Republicans are desperately using their power in order to try to dominate politics.
Absolutely, and when we look at how Republicans fight, they fight with a purpose. This is why I said on your show Friday, I said on Faraji Muhammad's show, The Coach Show, on Monday, we have to stop telling the African Americans to exercise your right to vote. You don't vote for exercise. If you want to exercise, go to the gym and work out. You vote for power. Republicans utilize what they have to wield power, to maintain power. We have to understand that as well. We see the what's going on with in Michigan, and what happened was Jocelyn Benson, the Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, she put out a 54-page report refuting all of the big lie claims that Republicans made in Michigan. Republicans control the state legislature in Michigan. We have Governor Gretchen Whitmer, a Democrat. But Republicans still pushed to get Proposal 2 on the ballot to get more voter restriction laws on the ballot as well, okay? They're voting to maintain power, and we have to understand this and do the same thing.
Avis, that was one of the things that the Republican who's running for governor of Wisconsin said. He said, I win, we will never lose any election. They've already gerrymandered that state. Even if Democrats get 55% of all votes, they still won't have control in the legislature. And so what we're talking about here is people have to understand the apparatus that is at play. They have to understand that the other side, they are playing for keeps. They want to use their power to be in complete control. And Democrats have to be on a warlike footing, if you will, as well. Understand, you're in a battle. When Biden says we're fighting for the soul of America, look, that ain't just a statement. That's for real.
It is. And the challenge, though, is that Republicans tend to bring an Uzi and Democrats tend to, butter knife to the fight. And the problem is, just as was stated, we don't really understand the stakes. We don't seem to message well the stakes. We don't put the long-term investments in that we need to into communities so that people understand everything that's happening. And then in the last couple of months, you just can't say, okay, well, we did all this, vote for us now. You have to have continuous messaging, continuous work in that area. Plus, you need to understand that you are up against a party that literally does not want democracy. They don't want it. Okay, so we have to do everything that we can to fight back to protect it, because just like it is here today and hanging on by a thread, it could be gone tomorrow.
Monique, that's the thing that you heard, of course, Biden give the speech last week talking about the threat to democracy. You've had Republicans panning him, folks out there like Glenn Greenwald. Oh my goodness, oh, the world is going to end. But it is real. If the Secretary of State, this fool, wins in Arizona, then you got Carrie Lake, she wins, let's say the governor. Then all of a sudden, if they decide to say, we're not going to certify any election results, we now have total disarray. You already have Republicans who are saying they've got lawyers lined up in every single major state, all states in this country. And so many of these battles are going to be fought in the courtrooms. And so when we were talking about why it was huge that Trump was there, because who are they going to be trying to seek out? Trump-appointed federal judges to try to follow through. And if the Supreme Court is the backstop, that's scary as hell with this Supreme Court.
Yes, and because it's scary and because democracy is at stake and it's my first opportunity to speak tonight, I'm going to say to everybody who's listening right now, go vote. There are just a few polls that are closed. For the majority of this country, they're open. People in Arizona have hours left where they can go and vote. And I think that is still what's important tonight. We have plenty of time to do like the postmortem on everything that the Dems did wrong, the Repubs did wrong, everybody did wrong. But for tonight, it is urgent that people realize that they still have an opportunity. These races may come down to 50 votes, 100 votes.
Well, look, Shira Beasley lost for the Supreme Court in North Carolina 2 years ago by 401 votes. Remember, in Virginia, who controlled one of the chambers was decided by a coin toss.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it was tied.
Yeah, right. I mean, and right now, it's 4 o'clock places where some of those elections are going to matter. So I would urge people to utilize the time that they have. Listen to us on your phone and go get in line.
Yeah, stay in line, but you can watch this while you're also online.
Okay, so that was a little bit of our marathon 8-hour broadcast. I want to go to another segment there. It was a good experience being in the studio and getting to see everything behind the scenes. There were over 50 guests that Roland had. Everybody from Mark Morial to from the National Urban League to Cliff Albright, Black Voters Matter, Dr. Julian Malveaux. I was in the studio with Dr. Julian Malveaux, who I already know, but it's good to see her again as well. The economist, Dr. Julian Malveaux, and attorney Monique Presley was sitting next to me. He had Dr. Greg Carr on, as well as Reverend William Barber. I want to go to another segment here. Just a second. I didn't get a chance to cue this up like I wanted to. So I've been so busy. Let's see here. Reese Colbert was on also. Black Women Views, Reese Colbert. We'll share some more segments on this coming Sunday. Hold on, I must be missing something. Okay, I got to go back and find. I was trying to find another segment that I'm in, but it takes time to go through. This is an 8-hour broadcast. It takes time to go through and find these different segments. All right. I have to look for this later. Hold on. Let's see here. Here's one.
You got to remind
so in this segment here, we're talking about messaging and how Democrats have a problem with messaging and messaging their accomplishments.
Is shaping up. One, people keep talking about Democrats must have a national message. Well, actually not true, because first of all, congressional races are 700,000 people, okay? So it depends upon your congressional race. And so, look, Tim Ryan runs in Ohio for U.S. Senate. Right. He has to run a different race than Sheriff Beasley runs because it's a different state. Exactly. Same thing in Florida, same thing in Texas. So you can't have the same message. That's why what AOC runs on in one place can't be the same as somebody who's running in California. And even if you talk about California, Katie Porter is representing Orange County. Okay, she can't run the same as Maxine Waters, right. And so people just get deluded with that. But I do think that I do believe that one of the greatest failures of Democrats across this country was not taking advantage of. We did this dealing with the economy.
Exactly.
And literally saying again, I guess what keeps jumping out at me is that in Jungle Fever. Wesley Snipes was leaving the architecture firm, and he was like, mine. And they were like, ego. He's like, hell no, I did all the work. You gotta take credit for shit you do.
Exactly.
And you gotta tell people, yeah, we did this.
You know,
you got that $1,500 check. See, you gotta be real black. You gotta be real black. Yep. It's like, so like if I gave somebody some money, right, and then they act like they forgot, who the hell gave you $1,500?
Right. Exactly.
That's where I come from. You got to remind folk what you did.
Exactly. And, you know, I talked about the American Rescue Plan a number of times. The reason why Democrats really had to drive home the point of how the $1.9 trillion American Rescue economy and Republicans in the House and the Senate voted the bill is because the bill was passed and signed into law in March 2020. So that is 2 months basically into the Biden-Harris administration. So people don't make a distinction between that COVID bill and the two previous COVID bills under Trump. You have to explain to people.
And what was in it?
And what was in it? Over and over again. $46.5 billion for renters assistance and landowners, property owners.
Hold up. And this, what? Okay, something wrong with your mic. So come fix it then. Y'all come out, your mic fell. Your mic fell.
Okay.
Well, find your mic, Michael.
It's on the floor.
What's
I was busy talking. I didn't realize my mic fell off. Okay, my lavalier mic. I didn't realize my mic fell off. Okay, but yeah, Democrats have to claim their victories, and they have to explain to people their victories. Now, you've heard me talk about this document here. That's at whitehouse.gov. The Biden-Harris administration advances equity in, let's pull this up here. The Biden-Harris administration advances equity and opportunity for Black Americans and communities across the country. So they just updated this again, November 6, 2022. It was last updated June 19th. It's last updated June 19th, 2022. Then they updated it right before the election. Okay. This is a powerful document. Now, the problem is a lot of people don't know it exists. Okay, I'm the only person I know who is talking about this document. And it takes you through step by step. And it shows you how the policies of the Biden-Harris administration are helping African Americans. And it takes you through category by category, step by step. And it breaks this down. So read this one here. We'll post a link. I talked about this when I was on Faraji Muhammad show yesterday, Monday, November 14th. Faraji Muhammad show on the Black Star Media Network. It's Roland Martin's network. And we were talking about midterms. We also talked about the film Black Panther. So check that out at Roland S. Martin on YouTube, on Facebook, and download the Black Star Media app as well. So it breaks down economic opportunity for Black families and communities, lowering energy costs. So it goes in and talks about how the Inflation Act, because this updated information includes the Inflation Reduction Act, okay? And it shows how that's going to help African Americans. No Republicans in the House or the Senate voted for the $1.9 trillion voted for the Inflation Reduction Act. No Republicans in the House or the Senate voted for this bill, even though they're yelling and screaming about inflation. Okay, President Biden has led the most equitable economic recovery on record, creating nearly 10 million jobs since coming into office and helping create new economic opportunities for African Americans, including Black-owned businesses, and made long overdue investments in Black communities. The Biden-Harris administration's vital policies and programs include lowering energy costs and creating economic opportunities through the Inflation Reduction Act. They go through and break that down. I'm just going to highlight a few things here because I got to move on to the next topic. Making home efficiency upgrades more affordable. Households can save up to 30% with tax credits for efficient heating and cooling. That will save them hundreds of dollars on utility bills. So they go through and explain that a lot as well. Creating economic opportunities and good paying jobs. The Inflation Reduction Act spurs solar project development in environmental justice communities by providing a 20% bonus credit for solar projects on federally subsidized affordable housing projects and a 10% bonus credit for solar projects in low-income communities. Okay, so read the rest of that. Providing relief to farmers. The Inflation Reduction Act includes $5.3 billion that will provide relief for tens of thousands of farmers, including African American, Latino, and Native American farmers. Of that money, $3.1 billion will help distressed borrowers pay off their farm debts without ultimately taking the land or making the farmer ineligible for future assistance. Now, nobody talks about this. How many people have you heard talk about this that's in the Inflation Reduction Act and how it will help African American farmers? Who have you heard talk about this? Who have you heard explain this? An additional 2.2 billion will go to farmers who have suffered discrimination by the U.S. Department of Agriculture farm programs, and that's a lot of African Americans, because we've lost African American farmers have lost something like 12 million acres of land over the last 100 years. Making critical investments in Black families and communities in the American Rescue Plan. So they go through, break that down, historic expansion of the child tax credit. We need to get the child tax credit back. It probably won't pass with Republicans in control of the House, but the 2024 election, you can, if Democrats take back control of the House and keep the Senate, you can get that passed and expand the margin in the Senate to get like 52, 53 Senate seats, so you can do a carve out to the filibuster. I don't think Republicans in control of the House, I don't think they're going to vote for this, but we'll see. Supporting child care providers and reducing child care costs for Black families. Black families are nearly 2 times more likely than white parents to have to quit, turn down, or make major change in their job due to child care disruptions. The American Rescue Plan, that no Republicans in the House or the Senate voted for, by the way, the American Rescue Plan provided a $39 billion lifeline to help child care providers stay open and compensate early childhood educators as they provide safe and healthy environments for children and helps work. States have already delivered American Rescue Plan stabilization grants to more than 200,000 child care providers, 1 in 5 of whom are African American. 1 in 5 of whom are African American, 20%, serving as many as 9.5 million children and their families. Who's explaining this to you? In most states, providers in at least 98% of counties received aid. Okay, so read the rest of that. Rescue Plan tripled the earned income tax credit for 17 million workers without dependent children. Okay, earned income tax credit for workers without dependent children for 2021 from $540 to $1,500, and extended the credit to younger and older workers, helping African American families stay in their homes. President Biden's American Rescue Plan has helped African Americans stay in their homes by providing emergency rental assistance. Of the $25 billion in rental assistance that was spent in 2021, African American families were the largest group that received this help, representing more than 40% of the aid recipients, but with 13.6% of the population. But we represented more than 40% of the aid recipients receiving the $25 billion for rental assistance. There was also rental assistance for landowners as well. There was rental assistance for renters and landowners who rent homes, apartment buildings, etc. Okay, so, and they talk about the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. They go through category by category, break this stuff down. Extending a lifeline to struggling small businesses through the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan that no Republicans in the House or the Senate voted for, and the equitable implementation of emergency relief programs. President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris have fostered the strongest recovery for Main Street, everyday business, everyday people. In 2021, Americans applied to start 5.4 million new businesses, more than 20% higher than any previous year on record. And with new business creation, especially strong among entrepreneurs of color, the American Rescue Plan provided emergency grants, lending, and investment to hard-hit small businesses, including African American-owned businesses, so they can rehire and retain workers. The Paycheck Protection loans, there was another round of that in the American Rescue Plan, so they can rehire and retain workers and purchase the health and sanitation equipment they need to keep workers safe. This includes new $10 billion state small business credit, which will provide growth capital to early stage companies, and Main Street small businesses in economically disadvantaged areas, including minority-owned businesses. Okay, so go through and read the rest of this. It's over 22 pages. The one that was updated June 19th, 22, I printed that one out. That came to 22 pages. I haven't printed this new one out yet. I just updated a few days ago. Okay, but share this with all the Simple Simon ass people on social media that talk about Biden-Harris administration hasn't done anything for black people. They don't read. And every time they open their mouth, they prove that they don't read, and they prove how ignorant they are. Share that with the Simple Simon asses. Okay, I want to go to this next. How's everybody doing? Give us a thumbs up, give us a heart, give us a like on this broadcast as well. This person here, let's see. Kaden Pat said, unfortunately, Republican judges have stopped the student loan forgiveness program. Is blocked. It has to go through the process in court. They're going to appeal the decision to block it. It was a Trump judge that just blocked it as well, which shows you how important judges are. And Donald Trump got 226 federal judges confirmed. Now, Biden has gotten a record number of federal judges confirmed in the first year. And he's gotten a number of African-American female judges, federal judges confirmed as well. These are lifetime appointments. We need the student loan debt forgiveness to be passed by Congress, written in law by Congress. And that's much stronger than an executive order. Okay. You need Congress to pass student loan forgiveness. Republicans, I doubt if any Republicans vote for that, which is why it was so important for Democrats to maintain control of the House. We'll see what happens, but at least they maintain control of the Senate. The fight continues. It was predicted to be a lot worse. The results, and thanks for your comment, Kate and Pat. You all can post your comments here. Kate and Pat also said Democrats have to toot their own horn, which is correct. You have to claim your victories. Okay. It's not bragging when you can back it up. It ain't okay. So sometimes when some of us grow up, some of us are taught to be humble. Some of us are taught don't brag, things like that. Okay. When you are in politics, you have to constantly explain to people what you have accomplished, how your policies are benefiting the people who voted for you, as well as the people who don't vote for you. Because what's important to understand is that in, say, a House district, right? That person that wins that House seat is the member of the House of Representatives for their entire district, approximately 710,000 people. They don't just serve, they're not just a House member for the people who voted for them. Okay, so if it's a Democratic House member like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Maxine Waters is not just a House member for the people who voted for her. She's the House member for everybody in that district, approximately 710,000 people. So you have to explain, especially to the people who voted for you, but people in general in your district, how the policies that you vote for, the policies you advocate for, how they're helping them. You have to constantly message over and over and over again, because the average person doesn't follow this type of information every day. Now, I do. Roland Martin does. Other people do. But the average person, they don't follow this stuff every day. A lot of people can't tell you who their member of the House of Representatives is. Okay? So they should be able to tell you. But a lot of people don't know this information. So you have to constantly message. Okay. Let me see. Okay, where are we here in this extended broadcast? Just a second. Okay, so we talked about Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. We talked some about the midterm elections. And on my Sunday show, this coming Sunday, we'll talk more about midterm elections as well. Democrats maintain control of the Senate, which is huge. We talked about Senator Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker, okay, and their Senate runoff race. And I want to get to the story here dealing with Marla Gibbs as well. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. All right. Who still needs to register for the online history classes I teach on Tuesdays and Wednesdays? We'll post a link here. Tuesdays, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Wednesdays, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time also. On Tuesdays, it's from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. And we have the information right on the homepage of our website. And then on Wednesday, it's from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power. It's Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. So the class is on sale, $60, regularly $130. It's a big discount. These classes are going to be at least 10 weeks. We may go 11 or 12 weeks. I want to make sure we cover all the information. It's a ton of info in the class. We do a PowerPoint presentation. We have book references, articles, video clips. We have a bundle pack. You can register for both classes for $100. It's actually $100 for the bundle. Okay, I have to update the website. It's actually $100 for the bundle because I changed it. I dropped the cost of the bundle. And here is our Tuesday class from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power. Because today we're going to deal with the Jim Crow era. We've already dealt with the Civil War and Reconstruction. So this is one of the binders that I teach from. And we show you the articles on the screen. We have book references, video clips. I put together, there are actually two binders that I have, like information, this much information. There are actually two binders that I have that I teach from for the class. I think today we'll get to the Mississippi State Convention of 1890 also. Okay, so we posted a link here for the classes. So register for those, please. Thank you. I want to get to this last story, then I have to get out of here because I have to get ready to teach a class today and tomorrow. So I have a lot of work to do. I saw this story dealing with Marla Gibbs. Who played Florence Johnston on The Jeffersons, okay? And she was Mary Jenkins on 227. I saw this article from AtlantaBlackStar.com, and I posted it on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, when this article came in. And this article came out November 3rd, so it was before the midterm elections when I posted it. It got thousands of likes on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network. I also posted it in the World Facebook group that I'm in. I posted it there as well, okay? Because I'm a big fan. People that know me, they know I'm a big fan of the show A Different World. That show is such a powerful show. And it came on when I was in high school and then in college. So, that show changed a lot of our lives and inspired many of us to want to go to college or do better in college. That show was just transformational. But Marla Gibbs, who played the maid Florence Johnston, the Jeffersons' maid, for 10 seasons on the CBS show The Jeffersons. She was interviewed by Sherry Shepherd, okay, on Sherry Shepherd's new talk show, daytime talk show. And Marla Gibbs revealed that the producers of the show 227, which aired on NBC, wanted her to be a single mother raising a daughter. They did not want her to be married. And Marla Gibbs said that she said she told them, I will not do the show man. I will not do the show without a man. And she explained how she had to fight to portray a married African-American family. And she fought to have an African-American husband on that show. And I like the show 227. I watched the reruns on Hulu. It was a really good show. I think it was better before Jackie Harry left. She also talks about how she fought to have Jackie Harry on the show play Sandra as well. Okay, so this is a fascinating story here. The legendary Marla Gibbs, who I think is underrated. She's 9 years old. She just got her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I think Marla Gibbs is still underrated. Okay, but the legendary Marla Gibbs appeared on the Sherry Shepherd show, where she received praise for her beauty and groundbreaking career in entertainment. Now, the actress, best known for playing housekeeper Florence Johnston, now they misspelled her name, her character's name is not Florence Johnson, it's Johnston with a T. Okay, but we forgive AtlantaBlackStar.com. They do some good reporting. The actress best known for playing housekeeper Florence Johnston on the beloved sitcom The Jeffersons also played Mary Jenkins on 227. She was recently cast in season 19 of Grey's Anatomy. Grey's Anatomy is still on the air. And the Snoop Dogg produced film Bromates. The Snoop Dogg produced film Bromates. Now, Sherry Shepherd was present when Marla Gibbs received her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in July 2021. And Marla Gibbs said, "Oh, it was so fabulous." Gibbs said of her big day, "I never expected it. That was all Regina's idea," referring to Regina King, okay, who played her daughter Brenda Jenkins on the show 227. Here's a picture of Marla Gibbs here, 91 years old. Now, Marla Gibbs was also on the episode of, at least one episode of the TV show A Different World. She played the principal at the school that Whitley was a substitute teacher at. If you remember in season 6, she played the principal of the inner city school, okay? They also had an episode in season 6 with Billy D. Williams on as well, okay? And we know that Billy D. Williams had a cameo on The Jeffersons, and Florence Johnston was Billy D. Williams' biggest fan, right? Okay, so Sherry Shepherd clarified that fellow star Regina King was responsible for getting everyone on board with getting Marla Gibbs a Hollywood star. She said, quote, "They turned us down the first year," said Marla Gibbs, who feels much younger than she is. She said, "I think somebody got that wrong. I'm 30. I'm 30 years old," said the woman who jokingly turns that age every year. She turns 30 every year. It sounds like Jack Benny turned 39 every year. So Sherry Shepherd reminded the audience that Marla Gibbs brought the idea of the show 227 to Jefferson's creator, Norman Lear. It was Marla Gibbs who brought the idea of the show 227 to Jefferson's creator, Norman Lear. And Norman Lear was the developer of the TV show Good Times, which was created by Eric Monty and Mike Evans, or Michael Evans. And Michael Evans was the first Lionel on the Jeffersons. And Eric Monty and Michael Evans were writing partners. And when you watch the Good Times at the end of Good Times, when they show the credits, every episode it says created by Eric Monty and Mike Evans. And the character of Michael Evans, the youngest son, is named after Mike Evans, co-creator of Good Times, who was the first Lionel on the Jeffersons. Now, Marla Gibbs then revealed that the show 227 was initially a play that ran for 6 months, and she starred in the play as Mary Jenkins. It was seen by Brandon Tartikoff, who was the president of NBC from 1981 to 1991. I remember when Brandon Tartikoff was the president of NBC. And when The Cosby Show came out in 1984, NBC moved from last place to first place. They had The Cosby Show, then they had Family Ties, they had Cheers, they had Golden Girls, 227, Miami Vice, but The Cosby Show, that show was so phenomenal. It took NBC from last place to first place. You just had 3 networks then, okay? NBC, ABC, CBS. Marla Gibbs said, so when Norman Lear finally came to see it, which I had invited him, but then he heard about it, he said, I hear you have a good play. I said, yeah. He said, well, I want to see it. I said, well, you better come tomorrow because we're closing. Okay. Now, I don't know if she ended the sentence by saying child, okay, because we're closing child. Because on the TV show 227, oh my God, I haven't heard so many honeys and childs since, probably maybe when I was in Mississippi when I was 6 years old or something like that. I don't know, but that show has like a down home Southern feel to it with Helen Martin playing Pearl Shea, the veteran actress Helen Martin, who was Weeping Wanda on Good Times. And you have Elena Reed Hall, who was Susan on Sesame Street, who was Gordon's younger sister, Susan on Sesame Street, Elena Reed Hall. Now, due to their first and legendary series, Norman Lear offered, the Jeffersons, Norman Lear offered to also produce 227 with Marla Gibbs. So Marla Gibbs said, so I said, okay, that's home. I'm already doing the Jeffersons. But check this out. Now, this is the same thing that Norman Lear and the white people who controlled Good Times did to Esther Rolle. I'm gonna give you some background history on this. Marla Gibbs said, but then when I got it, the script and all that stuff, what they put together, Norman Lear had 2 other producers who were also African Americans, but they did not agree with anything I wanted to do. Now, she's the one who came up with the idea of 227 based upon the play that she was starring in. Okay? The 227 play. She's the one that comes up with the idea of the TV show. She said, Marla Gibbs said, when they wanted her character, Mary Jenkins, to portray a single woman, to which Marla Gibbs replied, I will not do the show without a man. I will not do the show without a man. Now, in the play 227, she had a husband in the play. For those who watched 227, Marla Gibbs' character was married to Lester Jenkins, portrayed by Hal Williams, African-American actor Hal Williams, who also played Lester Jenkins in the play. So you go from a play to a TV show. She has a black husband in the play, but Norman Lear, you want her to be a single mother raising a black child. You want to cut the black man out like you did John Amos when you fired John Amos at the end of season 3 of Good Times because you didn't like the portrayal of a strong black father. You wanted a buck dancing Negro like JJ. You didn't like the portrayal of a strong black father, Norman Lear. Their chemistry was already established between Marla Gibbs and Hal Williams, which made it easier to add lines and transform them into a series. The chemistry they had in the play made it easier to transform this into a TV series. Marla Gibbs had to fight for Hal Williams the same way she fought for actress Jackie Harry, who played Sandra Clark on the TV show 227. Now, Marla Gibbs used what power she had. And it may have been a little bit of power because we knew her from the Jeffersons, but she didn't star in the Jeffersons, right? She was the co-star. Sherman Hemsley, Isabel Sanford, they starred in the Jeffersons. The Jeffersons is a spinoff from All in the Family, okay? The Jeffersons is a spinoff from All in the Family. So Marla Gibbs used what power she did have in Hollywood to fight for these roles for African-American actors and actresses. She fought for Hal Williams because she wanted to portray, and remember on the Jeffersons, she was a single woman on the Jeffersons. She would date here and there, but she really didn't have a love life on the Jeffersons. And she wanted to portray a married black family. So she had to fight for this. So there was a tweet in the article here from Jamie A. Thompson, PhD. Next to Abbott Elementary, I love 80s episodes of 227 with Marla Gibbs, Jackie Harry, Hal Williams, and the young Regina King. It's bringing so much realness. Okay. What did you use to put on that perfume? A spray gun? The interactions between, they were friends in real life, Marla Gibbs and Jackie Harry. Okay. But the interactions between them on the show was classic. Okay. It's similar to Red Fox and LaWanda Page, Aunt Esther, who were actually friends in real life. It's similar to that, okay? So Marla Gibbs said, I fought for him, referring to Hal Williams. I got him, and then Jack Hay came in, and she did an audition, actually first for Rose Holloway, who was Mary Jenkins' best friend, who was played by Elena Reed Hall, who played Susan on Sesame Street. Okay, Gordon's younger sister, Susan. But then Jackie Harry asked if she could play Sandra, and we said yes. She did, and she was hysterical. Jackie Harry played that role, and Jackie Harry blew up from that character of Sandra Clark. So much so, I remember when Jackie Harry was a guest host of The Tonight Show, Johnny Carson's The Tonight Show, before when Johnny Carson was still hosting the Tonight Show. Okay, she was a guest host. It was one of the times when he wasn't on the show, and she blew up from that role of Jackie Harry. She also won an Emmy Award for that role as well. Okay. And then she's going to end up leaving the show 227 to do movies. Things like that didn't work out too well for her. She should have stayed on that show. Because if you notice, as they go into like the third season, things like this, when you watch the opening credits, it'll say special guest Jackie Harry, because she only appeared a few times. I think maybe the third season, she only appeared a few times, and then she was largely just like written out of the script. They tried to give her a spinoff show. The spinoff show didn't work. One of the reasons why the spinoff show didn't work is because what they did, see, this is Hollywood once again, okay? The TV show 227 had character, and it focused on a working class African-American neighborhood where you had a black father, you had a married mother. Now, Rose Holloway, if I remember correctly, Rose had a daughter. If I remember correctly, her husband had passed away. But you still have a reference to marriage. Pearl Shea, played by Helen Martin. Pearl Shea had been married 3 times, okay? And she's raising her grandson, Calvin, okay? Calvin Dobbs. But you still have a reference to marriage, and you have this community. When Jackie Harry gets her, they did a pilot episode for the spinoff, which they show as one of the episodes of 227. She goes to New York, and the guy she's supposed to work for, it ends up that job falls through. She's desperate for money. She goes and gets a job working at a health spa, She's the only African-American character, except for one African-American guy who works at the health spa. All the other people are white. And she ended up not getting the show. They did a pilot. I don't think it tested well. But look at what they did. They built a loyal African-American audience, because we saw us and we saw this community, this black family and this black community. Then one of the stars of the show, you give them a spinoff and you drop her into a sea of white people. And you totally change the dynamics that drew us to watch 227 in the first place. When you do that, you also lock out a lot of African-American actors from opportunities, because you give those opportunities to white actors and actresses. So this is the game that they played. All right, now, in 1987, Jackie Harry became the first African-American woman to win an Emmy Award for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series for 227. Jackie was fantastic in this role, all right? But Marla Gibbs said NBC did not want her to have that role. NBC wanted Sheryl Lee Ralph to play Jackie Harry. And Marla Gibbs had to fight for Jackie Harry to get that role. Marla Gibbs said, quote, "They wanted somebody else, but I said, I want her. Like Uncle Sam says, I want you." She said, I want her because she's going to work. Marla Gibbs said, Jackie is going to work. The other person I loved, but nobody would believe she lived in this building, okay? She was just sophisticated, Marla Gibbs insists, but Jackie was hysterical. Now, Jackie Harry's historic Emmy win paved the way for Sheryl Lee Ralph, who's a fantastic actress also. When we first saw Sheryl Lee Ralph in the Bill Cosby, Sidney Poitier movie, A Piece of the Action, okay? And she was one of the high school delinquents, okay? Sheryl Lee Ralph, brilliant, brilliant actress. Jackie Harry's win for Best Supporting Actress in the Comedy Series, the Emmy win, paved the way for Sheryl Lee Ralph to win the same award in early this year in 2022 in September. As previously reported, Sheryl Lee Ralph won for her role as Miss Barbara Howard on the hit comedy series Abbott Elementary. Jackie Harry praised Sheryl Lee Ralph being the second woman to do so and creating a full circle moment. Jackie Harry, who also starred in the TV show Sister to Sister with Tia and Tamara Mowry, and she co-starred opposite Tim Reed, veteran actress Tim Reed, who we probably first saw on the TV show WKRP in Cincinnati, okay? 1970s, 1980s TV show about the radio station WKRP in Cincinnati. And there's actually a WKRP in Cincinnati. It's Channel 5. It's a TV station. I don't know if they have a radio station, but they do have a TV station. Okay. So we first saw him as Venus Flytrap, the cool, hip DJ. Okay. That made me want to work at a radio station too. Seeing WKRP in Cincinnati, that made me want to work in a radio station. Okay. And I'm a DJ now. Well, I'm not a DJ. I'm a radio show host, not a DJ. Okay. But we saw him then, and then we saw him on the TV show Simon and Simon as Lieutenant Downtown Brown. Okay. And then he did Frank's Place as well. All right. But he's a brilliant actor, very versatile. So he goes from playing a cool guy like Venus Flytrap to playing somebody that's kind of nerdy and conservative, Ray, I think his name was Ray, on 227, one of the parents of one of the twins. So winning my Emmy was a career highlight, but it was also a lonely experience, said Jackie Harry. She tweeted this along with a photo of herself with the Emmy she won. She said, Jackie Harry said, for 35 years, I've been the only Black woman to win Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series, but that all changes tonight. That all changes tonight. And it's a full circle. It comes full circle, #Emmys. Now, in a second tweet, the 66-year-old Jackie Harry confirmed that NBC wanted Sheryl Lee Ralph to play Sandra Clark instead of her. She said, quote, the network originally wanted at the Sheryl Lee Ralph, her Twitter handle, at the Sheryl Lee Ralph to play Sandra on 227, but I got the part and won the Emmy. I got the part and won an Emmy for it. Now, Sheryl Lee Ralph joins me as the second Black woman in this category, and deservedly so. I'm so excited for her #Emmys win. Okay, so that's a great story. But you have African-American actresses supporting one another, lifting one another up, fighting for roles for other people, using and you know the fact that Marla Gibbs was able to use what power she had in Hollywood to fight to have a Black man be her husband. That's fantastic. Now that's similar to what happened with on Good Times, okay, with Esther Rolle. Now, the TV show Good Times was a spinoff of All in the Family, all right? And sorry, TV show Good Times was a spinoff of Maude. TV show Good Times was a spinoff of Maude. Maude was a spinoff of All in the Family. Maude was Edith Bunker's cousin, okay? And Maude was played by B. Arthur. And I like watching a lot of those old shows today because you get to see what was going on back then politically and in the culture. One thing that I think is really important to note, and I'm all for women equal rights. I don't want you to misunderstand that, right? I'm all for women having equal rights, especially African-American women. But on the show Maude is a feminist, and she's on her fourth husband. the husband that you see her married to, that's her fourth husband. Okay. Her daughter is either separated or divorced, one of them. Her daughter is separated or divorced and moves back home with her young male, her young son that she's raising. So now this is at a time like early 1970s. This is at a time when you had the women's liberation movement. I'm all for women having equal rights, equal pay, equal rights, all that stuff. I'm all for that. But it's just interesting that Maud is a feminist and she's on her fourth husband. And her daughter is either divorced or going through a divorce. And raising her son on her own, basically on her own also. So Florida Evans was Maud's maid. Okay. Florida Evans was Maud's maid, and she was married to a man named Henry Evans. Originally, it was played by a different actor, and then they brought in John Amos to play Henry Evans. So on the TV show Maud, John Amos, or Henry Evans, he was a firefighter. He was a fireman, right? The last episode that Esther Rolle appears as Florida Evans, they write into the storyline that John Amos' character, who was on the TV show Mary Tyler Moore, he was playing Woody, the sportscaster on Mary Tyler Moore. Okay, this is where we see him before. This is before Kunta Kinte. This is before Roots in 1977. Henry Evans gets a raise at work. He's a firefighter. He gets a raise at work. He's making more money, and he wants his wife to stop being a maid. So this is like the last episode where Florida Evans appears. Then, so she gets her spinoff show, Good Times, which is about her raising her family in the projects like the Cabrini Green projects. But the producers of the show and the developers of the show, like Norman Lear, they wanted her to be a single mother raising 3 children. But wait a second. She had a husband when she was a maid on Maud, a black man. She had a husband when she was a maid on Maud. You end her tenure on Maud with her husband getting a raise at work. So they're moving up economically, and he wants her to quit her job working for a white woman. But now that you give her her own show, you want to cut the black man out, Norman Lear. So Esther Rolle had to fight for Florida Evans to be married. Now, she was married when she was a maid working for the white woman. But now she gets her own show, and you want her to be a single mother, Norman Lear. So she fights, and they capitulate and let John Amos continue the role that he played on Maud. But they changed his name to James Evans. And then when they bring in his father's name is Henry Evans, but they had to have his father abandon his family, and they get reunited. This whole screwed up stuff coming through the lens of white supremacy. Now, it's important to note, Eric Monti and Mike Evans, they were writing scripts and they were writing roles that defied stereotypes. This is why Eric Monti, who's the co-creator of Good Times, this is why he came to Hollywood. Okay. And Eric Monti also wrote the screenplay for Cooley High. And the TV show What's Happening is loosely based on Cooley High, because in Cooley High, Preach, played by Glenn Thurman, who goes on to play Colonel Bradford Taylor on A Different World. Glenn Turman's character of Preach wants to be a writer, okay? And he also wore the black rim glasses. So Roger Thomas, on What's Happening, he wants to be a writer. He also wears the black rim glasses also, like Preach and Cooley High. So they give Florida Evans a husband on Good Times, but they give him a 6th grade education. Now, I don't think you can be a 6th grade education. He was a fireman on Maud who gets a raise at work, and he's making more money, so he wants his wife to stop working for the white woman. But when they get their own show, when Florida Evans gets her own show, Esther Roll, they want her to be a single mother. She puts her foot down and says, no, I want a black man as my husband. So they said, okay, we're going to give you a black man. But we're going to give him a 6th grade education. And he's going to have 2 minimum wage jobs. And he's barely going to be able to afford to pay the subsidized rent in the projects. They give Florida Evans a 10th grade education. And I think it was the 3rd episode, Eviction Day. He has to go get the pool stick out the. They didn't even have a closet. They had a drape for what was supposed to be a closet. He has to go hustle to get the rent money so they don't get evicted. The subsidized rent money. And JJ becomes Jimmy Walker, comedian Jimmy Walker, becomes the breakout star of the show, but he's portraying a stereotypical character who's ignorant, barely literate. He is a fantastic artist, but this is something that they slip in on the cast. And Eric Monti and Mike Evans, because Mike Evans was the original Lionel on the Jeffersons. So when Good Time starts, Mike Evans leaves Good Time. He leaves the Jeffersons portraying Lionel Jefferson. He goes to work on the set of Good Times full time as a writer and co-creator of Good Times. So then on the Jeffersons, they bring in another actor named Damon Evans, no relation, to be the second Lionel. Then when Good Times ends, about 1979, Michael Evans goes back to the Jeffersons and reprises his role as Lionel Jefferson. I also didn't like how Norman Lear and the other ones, the producers of Jeffersons, had to have Lionel and Jenny get a divorce. Why you can't have young people or younger people in their 20s? You can't have younger black people married? They have to get a divorce? Why? Norman Lear. I remember Cheryl Lee Ralph left the TV show Moesha because she played Brandy's mother, her stepmother, Moesha, on the TV show Moesha. And she leaves after the powers that be of the show wrote into the script that the black father in the show cheated on his wife. And Cheryl Lee Ralph didn't like that. She said this was a good show. You had a good black family. You had a black father. Why'd you have to write infidelity into the script and ruin the show? If I've done a lecture series called The Media's Deliberate Destruction of the African-American Family. And we deal with like the history of media and TV shows, things like this. And I interviewed Bernadette Stannis twice on the African History Network show, who plays Thelma Evans. So I did a lot of research preparing for my interview with her also. And this is one of the books that was part of my research for my lecture series and my interview as well with Bernadette Stannis. Blacks in American Films and Television by an illustrated encyclopedia by Donald Bogle. Okay, Blacks in American Films and Television. Okay, an illustrated encyclopedia by Donald Bogle. So all the movies and TV shows that had like a significant African American character up until maybe about 1987, 88, because this book came out in 1988, they have an entry, they have an encyclopedic entry of it here. And they have one for Good Times. So it's broken up between TV and movies. Okay. So they have one here for Good Times. It's in alphabetical order. So they have one here for the Jeffersons, January 18th, 1975 to June 23rd, 1985. So they have one here for the Jeffersons. The crazy thing about the Jeffersons is that when the show was canceled, they didn't tell the cast, really. I remember, if I remember correctly, Mips said she learned that the show was canceled after 10 seasons by reading about it in the newspaper. And even the unsung Hollywood edition of TV One that they did on the Jeffersons, they talk about that there as well. The Jeffersons was on for 10 years. CBS, the producers, they did not give them a finale show. They did not give them a wrap-up show. Basically, they did not tell the cast that the show was canceled. They read about it in the newspaper. Just total disrespect. Just total disrespect. Landmark TV show like that. But they have an entry here for Good Times. I'm just going to share an excerpt with you because we have to get out of here. How's everybody doing? Also, if you like this type of information, you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show. And we have the information on the homepage of our website. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, pay some of the bills, cover expenses when I got to travel out of town, etc., like I had to do to Washington, D.C. If you look at this entry here for Good Times, this is page 275 and 276 of Blacks in American Films and Television. So they have the entry here for Good Times. Okay. Also, Give Me a Break is on there also. Nell Carter, Give Me a Break. Unfortunately, a stereotypical role taking care of a white family. So Good Times aired February 8th, 1974 to August 1st, 1979. Aired on CBS, created by Eric Monty and Michael Evans, developed by Norman Lear. Look at this right here. Developed by Norman Lear. Okay, I don't know if you can see this. This book is coming apart. Developed by Norman Lear. Okay. I want you to see all this here. All right. CBS, created by Eric Monty and Michael Evans, developed by Norman Lear. So Norman Lear is the one that fired the black father, John Amos. Because Norman Lear said that a black father on a sitcom is not funny. Now, we like John Amos. So Norman Lear, what gives you the authority to determine for black people what is funny? I just find that very interesting. Let me go back to the picture here. I just find that very interesting. And this is something that Eric Monty said. Eric Monty, so I did a lot of research when I was preparing for my interview with Bernadette Stannis, and also for my lecture series, The Media's Deliberate Destruction of the African American Family. I did a lot of research on different shows, on Good Times, researched Eric Monty. Eric Monty said that Norman Lear kept telling him, you have to get rid of that black father. You have to get rid of that black father. He said a black father on a sitcom is not funny. Okay. Now, Archie Bunker on All in the Family was funny. He's white. Why can't you have a black father that's funny also? He doesn't have to be a clown. You know, John Amos was funny, but he wasn't a clown. You don't have to be a clown to be funny. Here's an excerpt of what the entry says by Donald Bogle. This half-hour weekly series about the problems and joys of the Evans family was the 1970s first family sitcom and has been considered something of a groundbreaker which it was. This was the first depiction really of an African-American family we saw each week. Okay. Clearly, it can be credited with having introduced to national TV a new point of view of African-American life. The series offered a portrait of an African-American family living in the slums, a tenement building on Chicago's South Side that is referred to as Cockroach Towers, quote unquote. Cockroach Towers, and confronted daily with a set of harsh urban realities. Good Times focused on Florida Evans, who played Esther Rowe, who first appeared as the maid on Maud. Her husband, James, played by John Amos, and their three children, JJ or Junior, portrayed by Jimmy Walker, comedian Jimmy Walker, Thelma, played by Bernadette Stannis, and Michael, played by Ralph Carter. As the father searched for a better job, unemployment was a recurring theme. Discrimination and poverty were also dealt with. Disgruntled and angered by his economic plight, the father, James, announced in one episode, the president said he was going to bring us all together, but no one told us it would be on a bread line. So if I remember correctly, he was referring to President Gerald Ford after Nixon resigned from office. After Nixon resigned in August of 1974. He's referring to President Gerald Ford. Okay, now, weekly, the show's theme song spoke of temporary layoffs and easy credit ripoffs and keeping your head above the water, making a wave when you can. Temporary layoffs, okay? Also, it says hanging in a chow line, C-H-O-W, not hanging in a jiving. It's hanging in a chow line, like a food line, a bread line. Good Times managed to touch on some of the language, the rhythms, and attitudes of ghetto experience, seen at one point in some 18 million homes. The series seemed to elicit viewer identification from African Americans and whites alike, who saw the struggle for economic and social survival of the Evans family as being part of their own. Always stressed, however, was the theme of America as a land of opportunity. There was also a lot of love in the home. James and Florida Evans, they had a lot of love for their children. So there's a lot of love in the family, but they also stressed education. They stressed education for their children. They stressed that they wanted a life better for their children, and they were willing to sacrifice to have a life better for their children as well. So we saw an emphasis on going to college. We saw an emphasis on, going into careers. Thelma to be a doctor. She dabbles with writing a script for a play as well. We see Michael go to college. Michael wants to be an attorney. He wants to be a Supreme Court justice like Thurgood Marshall. So we see these themes in the show, which really helps to pave the way for a Cosby Show in 1984, because with the Cosby Show, you see the actualization of some of the dreams that Florida and John Amos had for their children in the projects. So we see Claire Huxtable, who's an attorney, who college graduate from Hillman College. She's an attorney. We see Heathcliff Huxtable, who is a doctor, graduates from Hillman College, fictitious college, Hillman College as well. They're married. So the dreams that we see Florida and James have for their children, Michael being an attorney, Thelma being a doctor, we see the actualization of that with the Cosby Show. And then they have their own children, and they want something better for their children than what they have. But their children grow up in a middle-class neighborhood, so their children don't have the same drive that the civil rights generation had. Their children don't have the same drive and determination. You know, eventually Theo gets his act together, things like this. Eventually Lisa Bonet, her character, her Denise, she goes back to college, Medgar Evers College, okay? But they don't have the same drive and determination that their parents had, that civil rights generation. Okay, so seen at one point in some 18 million homes, the series seemed to elicit viewer identification from blacks and whites alike who saw the struggle for economic and social survival of the Evans families being part of their own. Also, the TV show The Jeffersons paves the way for the Cosby Show because we see an upwardly mobile married couple with the Jeffersons moving to a deluxe apartment in the sky. And incidentally, the theme song for the Jeffersons was written by Janae Dubois, who played Walona Woods on Good Times. Okay. Fish don't fry in the kitchen, beans don't burn on the grill. A whole lot of trying just to get up that hill. Now we're up in the big leagues, getting that turn that bat. Okay, right. As long as we're living as you and me, baby, ain't nothing wrong with that. So that's Janae Dubois. Now, Janae Dubois and Esther Rolle were sorority sisters in Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated also. This is a little known African-American history fact. Now, always stressed, however, was the theme of America, a land of opportunity. And in some cases, white viewers were permitted to patronize in some, hold on just a second. Okay. All right, we're back. We had a clip playing. Okay, now viewed today, the series seems very much a period piece with its shortcomings more than apparent. Too much of its political stand, its determination to confront social problems and ills, strikes us as merely rhetorical. The most biting comments usually coming from the youngest and therefore least threatening son, Michael. Okay, you all should be able to hear me now. The youngest and least threatening son, Michael, who they called the militant midget when he was younger, but as he grows older and goes to college and becomes more threatening, they stop calling him militant. Notice that he's called the militant midget when he's younger, okay? And he's smarter than JJ. And Michael studies Black history, and he's into Black pride and things like this, okay? There's an episode where he talks about Black History Week or Negro History Week. There's an episode where he talks about the Nation of Islam newspaper. Muhammad, I think he refers to it as Muhammad Speaks. Okay, so you get all this coming from Michael. not JJ. So Michael, who studiously keeps himself abreast of Black history and achievements, and who writes my favorite person school essays on Malcolm X and Jesse Jackson, had the older Evans children been blessed with more serious attitudes or insights, the series might have really attained the socially committed, quote unquote, socially committed goals it wanted us to believe it sought. Instead, poor Thelma was used for the most part as a backdrop for jokes or for showcasing the problems of other family members. Worst was the fact that the oldest Evans child, JJ, seemed barely literate. Repeatedly, the audience was reminded that JJ was an artist and supposedly talented young Black man trying to find a way, but Jimmy JJ Walker failed to communicate any type of artistic intensity or perceptivity, let alone something as fundamental as intelligence. What he became best known for was his trademark expression, dynamite, and his coon antics, Donald Bogle's term, not mine, quote unquote, coon antics, which were throwbacks to Step and Fetch It and Willie Best, but without any of the former's nihilistic poise or the latter's slyly acute sense of timing. Perhaps the most telling comments on JJ were made by Esther Roll to Ebony Magazine. Now, this is Esther Roll, who plays Florida Evans, who knows more about this basically than anybody else. And this is what she had to say about Jimmy JJ Walker. About Jr., James Evans Jr., JJ, okay? I don't think she's attacking Jimmy JJ Walker. She talks about the change in his character and how the TV show started out being and what it ended up being. Esther Roll said, quote, "I resent the imagery that says to Black kids that you can make it by standing on the corner saying dynamite. He's 18 years old, and he doesn't work. They do give him a job at the chicken shack, the chicken delivery place. And then at one point, he's working as an usher at the theater. He's 18 years old, and he doesn't work. He can't read or write. He doesn't think. The show did not start out to be that. The show did not start out to be that. Little by little, they have made JJ more stupid and enlarged the role. So they gave him more airtime. Is this because this becomes a huge hit? Okay, at one point seen in 18 million homes. That's unthinkable today. Most TV shows today are not seen in 18 million homes. And then there was they had the Good Times trading cards, like Topps baseball cards. They had the Good Times trading cards. Also, Jimmy JJ Walker had his own dial, the JJ dial, and it was because I had one when I was a kid. They had a stuffed dial, and they had a JJ Walker dial, had his hat, everything, and they had a cord that you pulled in his back, and it said it had recorded messages of JJ Walker. Okay, and one of them was Dynamite, and I don't remember the other ones that they said, but I remember Dynamite because I had the dial when I was a kid, right? So Esther Roll goes on to say, negative images have been quietly slipped in on us through the character of the oldest child. And she talked about how that's not how the show was originally supposed to be. That's not how the show started out, but this is how it ends up. Okay. And as he becomes a fan favorite and people wait for him to say dynamite each episode, he becomes really popular. He gets more screen time. Okay, so read the rest of this here, page 275 and 276 of this book here, Blacks in American Films and Television, an Illustrated Encyclopedia by Donald Bogle. Okay, you got Red Fox right here. You have Eddie Murphy, Beverly Hills Cop, all of that. So fantastic. I don't even, that's out of print. I don't even take that out the house anymore. That thing's out of print. Okay. Be sure to register for the online history classes that I teach on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And you're going to learn so much in these classes. You'll never look at history the same way. On Tuesdays is Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the on Tuesdays is from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. And on Wednesdays, it is Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. We also talked some about the film Black Panther. So some of the slides I showed you when we talked about Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, some of those slides are from the presentation that we do, or some of the slides that we use in the class. We go through and look at thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. And let me see here. We got a brief overview here for the sake of time. You can also use this information with your children as well. So the class is thoroughly documented. I'm the one to put together the curriculum. Okay, hold on. Where do we go? Okay, let me bring up the okay, so here's the introduction to our Wednesday class, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. We do the sessions live, but all the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch them anytime, okay? So a year from now, 2 years from now, you can go back and watch the entire class. So we can't start studying our history in slavery, even when we study the transatlantic slave trade, okay? Even when we study the transatlantic slave trade, we have to deal with thousands of years of history that leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. So we can't start studying our history in slavery, even when we study the transatlantic slave trade, which is important to study. It is important to study. We can't start in 1619 or in the 1440s when the Portuguese get involved, 1441 with Anton Gonzalez going into Mauritania. We have to understand the history chronologically and deal with the 800-year occupation of Europe by the Africans known as the Moors, who entered the Iberian Peninsula, today known as Spain and Portugal, in the Iberian Peninsula from North Africa in 711 AD, okay, led by Tariq ibn Ziyad. They go on in 710 AD, led by the General Tarif for the reconnaissance mission. And then they go into invade in 711 AD, led by General Tariq ibn Ziyad. This course not only deals with the transatlantic slave trade, but thousands of years of history that leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. August 20th, 2019 marked the 400th year anniversary of those 20 and odd Africans who came into Point Comfort in Virginia, August 20th, 1619 in Virginia, in what would later be the colony of Virginia, okay? And it's really at Hampton, Virginia, not Jamestown. It's actually at Hampton, Virginia, okay? So there's a section that we deal with in the class that deals with how, like, most of what you thought you knew about August 20th, 1619 is wrong. This year was known, now 2019 was known as the year of return, as many African Americans were reconnecting to Africa and traveling to Ghana and other West African countries. when we discuss the transatlantic slave trade, we have to first understand that African people are the original people of North, Central, and South America, and have been in the land we call the United States of America at least 51,700 years. We were here even before Native Americans came into existence. This does not mean the transatlantic slave trade did not happen. It means we have to understand thousands of years of history that take place before the transatlantic slave trade happened. So we deal in the class the 800-year occupation of Europe by the Africans known as the Moors, shocking archaeological discoveries that are causing the scientists and archaeologists, et cetera, to rethink everything. We look at insurance companies that took out insurance policies on slave ships and enslaved Africans on the plantations. Freemasonry, America and the Founding Fathers. Origins of the term America and Africa. There's so much history we look at in this class. What was the transatlantic slave trade? What were some of the events that led up to it? What role did Christopher Columbus play in laying the foundation for the transatlantic slave trade? When did Africans first come to the U.S. as slaves as well? We look at Asar, Aset, and Heru, who the Greeks called Osiris, Isis, and Horus. The link to ancient Kemet, Egypt, and early Christianity. Freemasonry in America. The fake Willie Lynch letter of 1712. We look at work from my friend, Dr. David Imhotep, that wrote the book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. We look at who the Khoisan people are as well. We look at the people of the Andaman Islands, also the Jarara or the Andamanese. And we go through and look at different archaeological discoveries, like on the Greek island of Crete in 2010, they developed stone tools that date back at least 130,000 years ago. We look at the lost city of Egypt called Tanis Heraklion that was revealed in 2003. And this city was swallowed into the sea about 800 years ago or so. And they found 16-foot tall statues, 700 anchors, all of this at the bottom of the sea, okay? And it's believed that it was built around 8th century BC, Tanis Heraklion, the lost city of Egypt. We show you some of the things that were found at the bottom of the sea as well. We look at archaeological discoveries like this one here that came out in June 2017 in Morocco, where they found skeletal remains of Homo sapiens that date back between 300,000 and 350,000 years ago, 100,000 years before the oldest human remains that they found that date back 195,000 years ago in Ethiopia. So they keep having to push the timelines back. Okay, they keep having to back that thing up. Juvenile had a song, Back That Thing Up. When these archaeological discoveries come out, they keep having to back that thing up. They keep having to push the timelines back. So the deeper they dig, the blacker the planet gets, the more research they do, the older we get. Okay, we talked about the Olmec heads in Mexico, and also we cite Dr. David Imhotep and the first Americans were Africans, documented evidence that makes the link between the Mandinka of West Africa and ancient Egyptian culture and the Olmec connection. Okay, we look at civilizations before Columbus comes to the land we call the United States of America as well. All right, an African presence in early America before Columbus and slavery, and this was an article that Runoko Rashidi wrote for AtlantaBlackStar.com. We look at the lost city of Egypt, Dazzling Aten, that was just discovered in 2021. Dazzling Aten, the lost city of Egypt. So we go through and look at all this history. We deal with the Druids. And one of the books that we use in the class is Egypt on the Potomac by Tony Browder, as well as Nile Valley Contributions to Civilization. We look at Egypt of the West, which is what the U.S. is known as. There's also a link between Memphis, Tennessee, and Memphis in Egypt. But when we look at the Washington Monument is an ancient African symbol called a tekken, okay? And the layout of Washington, D.C. is a copy of the layout of ancient Egypt. My friend Tony Browder deals with this in his tours of Washington, D.C., called Egypt on the Potomac, as well as he documents this in his book, Egypt on the Potomac also. And that's one of the books that we use in the class. Now, you don't have to buy any of these books in the class. I show on the screen excerpts of the book. We use the books as reference. You don't have to feel obligated to buy any of these books. There are about 1,200 Tekhenu all throughout ancient Kemet. We see Tekhenu from Kemet have been taken to London, England, Paris, France, and New York City. There's a good article from face-to-faceafrica.com called Cleopatra's Needle, how 3 ancient Egyptian obelisks ended up in New York City, London, and Paris, France. We deal with the mythology of Osar, Aset, and Heru, who the Greeks called Osiris, Isis, and Horus. This is the first Holy Trinity. Okay. And on page 17 of Egypt on the Potomac, Tony Browder says there were approximately 1,200 Tekhenu built in Kemet in ancient times, but only about a dozen are found in Egypt today. Many of the Tekhenu removed from Egypt are now in Istanbul, Turkey, London, England, Paris, France, Berlin, Germany, New York, Rome, Italy, Vatican City, and elsewhere throughout the world. The Tekhenu for plural, are now called obelisks by their new owners, and few know their origin or that they symbolize the resurrection of the African king or Nesubiti, Asar, in the mythology of Asar, Aset, and Heru. He talks about this on page 17 of Egypt on the Potomac. Okay, we deal with the African influence in Star Wars as well, which is based upon the Assyrian drama. When we look at Freemasonry, the word Mason is derived from the Latin words mass and sun. Mason means child of light and expresses the desire to pursue light, which is a metaphor for the sun, which symbolizes knowledge. Okay, the term child of light or sons and daughters of light was first used to identify students who had completed 42 years of study in the temples of ancient Kemet. Many Masonic temples were modeled after the temples of ancient Kemet, places where light or knowledge was imparted in a series of steps or degrees. So Browder talks about this on pages 18 and 32 of Egypt on the Potomac. So the concept of going to, first of all, the liberal arts colleges, that concept comes from the Grand Lodges, the House of Life, the Per Ankhs in ancient Kemet, okay, where the initiates would study for 42 years, and they learn 360 degrees of knowledge. And George G.M. James talks about the 7 liberal arts in Stolen Legacy, the rhetoric and the logic and the arithmetic, things like this. Okay, so the concept of going to a institution of higher learning and getting your credentials in a series of degrees, that comes from ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt. Okay, so this is just a sample of the type of information that we cover in the classes. And it's a visual class. I do a PowerPoint presentation. We have book references, articles, video clips, all of this. All right. So I put together the class, the curriculum, all of this. Did you know 50 of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence were Freemasons, and 13 of the 39 signers of the U.S. Constitution were Freemasons? Now, Masonic temples are considered houses of light or temples of learning. The term Mason, child of light, is a direct reference to the highest degree of the Kemetic education system. The 33 degrees of instruction within Freemasonry represent a fraction of the 360 degrees of instruction that comprised the ancient Kemetic system of education. Freemasons have held positions of influence and power throughout the world for over 200 years. Check out page 33 of Egypt on the Potomac by Tony Browder. So then we deal with the Aset. We look at some of the different Neteru, Aset, and Heru, who was the first Karest. Karest means rising of the spirit. From the word Karest comes the word Christ, which means anointed or anointed one. Aset was she of throne, or her name means she of throne, or she is throne. You often see her depicted with a throne on her head, because who sits on the throne in Kemet, that comes through the woman side of the family. And her attributes, she's associated with love and fertility. We know from Aset and Heru, you get the Black Madonna and Child, which was worshipped all throughout Europe, even before the Moors going in 711 AD. the Black Madonna and child was worshipped all throughout Europe. And then as you have a rise in European powers coming out of the Dark Ages, going from like the 1300s into the 1400s, and as they start to explore and conquer people's lands and extract the mineral wealth and build up Europe, as you have a rise in European powers, you have a rise in European phenotype, the European phenotype, and you have historical and religious figures get reinterpreted as European that were traditionally African figures. So you go from the Black Madonna and child that's African, you go to the white Mary and Jesus. And then Michelangelo paints the Sistine Chapel, I think in the 17th century. He shows his aunt and uncle he uses aunt and uncle as the image of, as the model of Adam and Eve, depicts them as Europeans. He depicts God as being a European, etc. Okay. So we go throughout history and look at all this. We look at Saint Nicholas, who was African as well. And we look at what are patron saints also. And then we look at why Christmas is celebrated on December 25th and understand that history, because nowhere in the biblical text, now this may go outside the circumference of some people's awareness, just because you never heard it before, disagree with it, or don't like it, does not mean it's not true. It just means you have to do some research to understand what I'm talking about. Nowhere in the biblical text does it state that Yeshua or Jesus the Christ was born on December 25th, because the letter J wasn't created until 1630 AD. So when you look at the letter, when you look at the word Jesus in the dictionary and you look at the etymology of the word, it takes you back to the Hebrew Yeshua with a Y, because the letter J didn't exist. Okay, the English language didn't exist in BC time. Okay, so we look at why Christmas is celebrated on December 25th. We also deal with the film Black Panther and the African influence in the film Black Panther. Like the Panther deity Bast comes from Bastet, the Neter Bastet, which was worshipped in ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt. And she was a goddess worshipped in the form of a lioness at first, and then later a cat. So it had a woman's body and a cat's head, a black cat. Bastet was the Neter, or goddess of warfare in Lower Kemet, worshipped as early as the Second Dynasty, 2890 BCE, before the Common Era. So we go through and look at the film we deal with the film Black Panther and what Wakanda means, because Wakanda is a real word. Wakanda, we see that in the Omaha Ponca and Sioux Indian languages. It means possesses secret powers. We also see it in the Osage language as well. In Wisconsin, there is a Wakanda Water Park in Wisconsin. Okay, so Wakanda is a deep word. It's, even though it's a fictitious country in Central East Africa, somewhere around Rwanda or Uganda, it's a deep word as well. And it's a Kikongo word. It's an African word in the Kikongo language, which is a Bantu language, and it's in reference to family. We deal with Hannibal Barca and the Punic Wars, the Battle of Cannae, 216 BC. Also, we talk about Carthage, the Carthaginians, descendants of the Phoenicians. We deal with a lot of that history. We deal with Publius Cornelius Scipio, who takes the surname Africanus after the Battle of Zama in 202 BC, because his family last name was not Africanus, it was Scipio. And Africa, in reference to the Afri, is not named after Publius Cornelius Scipio Africanus. He takes his surname Africanus after the Battle of Zama in 202 BC, where he defeats Hannibal Barca and conquers Carthage. Okay, so I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, Africa is named after a Roman general." No, it's not. You have to do more. You have to do more research. Please, people, please do more research. Okay, so we talk about different African civilizations, Axum and Carthage and Great Zimbabwe. Things of this nature. We go through and look at that. We deal with the African Moors going into the Iberian Peninsula and going into Al-Andalus, which is the southern portion of Spain where they settle. Al-Andalus, which means, loosely translated, is in reference to walking in the spiritual path or walking in the spiritual light. Okay, so we go through and look at that history and what leads to the Moors losing control also. And January 2nd, 1492, they lose their last stronghold, Granada, in Spain. General Tariq ibn Ziyad, 711 AD. So we go through and look at all that history also. We look at Saint Maurice, the patron saint of Germany. We discuss the national flags of Corsica and Sardinia, why they have African Moors heads on the national flags of Corsica and Sardinia. We look at Ghana, Songhai, and Mali, also the three great West African kingdoms. We deal with Christopher Columbus, and you got to understand the transatlantic slave trade. You have to deal with Columbus and his 4 voyages. Columbus never comes to the land we call the United States of America. The closest he comes here is Cuba, which is 90 miles away. But you got to deal with Columbus. And Columbus conquering Jamaica and Haiti and Puerto Rico and Honduras and Panama, in the island of Hispaniola, the western portion, the western third of the island of Hispaniola is where you have Haiti, and the French are going to take control of the western third of the island of Hispaniola in 1697 from the Spanish, and this is going to lead to, you know, the Haitian Revolution, 1791 to 1803. But then we go through and study the transatlantic slave trade. Okay, and look at this chronologically. Look at things like Dum Diversas, the doctrine of discovery, etc., 1452. Okay, look at what are papal bulls, because you got to understand all these things to, you know, really understand the transatlantic slave trade and how it evolves. And then also when the British get involved in the transatlantic slave trade in 1562 with Sir John Hawkins. Okay, so this is just a sample of what we cover in this 10-week online class. So I teach this class on Wednesdays, 7 p.m. usually 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Visit our website, TheAHNShow.com. You can register for it right now. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. Classes on sale, $60, regularly $130. So even a year from now, 2 years from now, you can go back and watch the entire class. And then on Tuesdays, I teach from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. Okay, you can use this information with your children also, and it takes a lot of work to teach this class. It takes a lot of preparation each class, even though I've been teaching Understanding Transatlantic Slave Trade since 2017, on and off since 2017. It takes a lot of work and time to do each class. So we definitely appreciate your support, and this helps support the African History Network and what we do as well. So we posted the link here, and we have the link to the courses on the courses page of our website. And the bundle pack is the best value. That's on sale, $100, the bundle pack. All right. Okay. And then on Tuesdays, we teach from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. That's on Tuesdays, usually 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. I don't take attendance. You can see me in class. I can't see you, but we do have a live text chat so you can ask questions, etc. All right, look, we have to get out of here. You can support us also through Cash App and PayPal, and we have the information on the homepage of our website. Those in the Detroit area, be sure to come to the lecture I'm doing on Black Panther Wakanda Forever on Saturday, November 19th at the Hannon Center near Wayne State University. Okay. We have to get out of here. Remember, the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. Because right now, it's correct wrong behaviors, not over till we win. Wakanda forever. And we'll talk to